What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, Manpreet, aka MMA Lock of the Night, and your boy on Twitter at MMALOTN. And let me just make sure this camera is nice and center as much as possible. We are going over UFC Vegas 26, headlined by Michelle Waterson and Marina Rodriguez, a fight that was thrown on us pretty last minute here, considering everything that went on, right? We were supposed to have TJ Dillashaw headline against Corey Sandhagen. TJ Dillashaw gets a cut over his right eye or his left eye. I want to say right eye, probably his right eye. And he unfortunately is unable to compete, and he's unable to meet Corey Sandhagen this weekend for the fight. It seems as though my fucking quality is dog shit once again, and I apologize for that. I have absolutely no idea what the reasoning is behind that. Hopefully it starts to pick up as the stream goes on. So audio is clear as always. People always let me know that the audio is clear. I apologize for the quality. It happened with one of the last ones that I've done. The Ultimate Weigh-In show was fine. Not sure why this one seems to be giving me trouble here, but it is what it is. It could also be because that I have my actual pre-recorded podcast uploading in the background, and that's going for another 6 or so minutes. So maybe after that is done, it will clear up for you guys. But either way, decent card that we got coming up. Again, Gregor Gillespie making his return, Mike Trizano making his return, Neal Magny against Geoff Neal. That's a great freaking fight. And I know most people aren't lit about Marina Rodriguez and Michelle Waterson, but I'm very intrigued by the matchup. Like, it's not the greatest placement on the card, don't get me wrong, but stylistically how they match up, I'm very intrigued by that. Obviously, we know Rodriguez coming off that big win over Amanda Ribas back at UFC 257 in January, and then Michelle Waterson coming off of a main event win over Angela Hill. And if you guys remember, that was similar circumstances where her and Angela Hill got thrusted into the main event on short notice, going from a 3-rounder to a 5-rounder. And Michelle Waterson comes through and she is able to pull off the victory via decision in that fight. All right, let me go to the chat real quick and then we'll get into the episode. I know we have some early risers here. We got somebody that came in at 7:29 saying, "May the 4th be with you all, you nerd." But I reciprocate that feeling. Mystic Sosa saying, "I'm only here so I won't get fined." The modern Dr. J is saying, "Looking forward to your content, brother." I appreciate the love and support as always, and I always hope to give you guys the best content possible. Tom Stout, given the $20 donation right off the bat, greatly appreciated. He's saying, "Thanks, Lock. Hit the Pro Hosta and round 2 prop at plus 750 for $1,500. Thanks to you. Watch your podcast all the time. I would like to show my appreciation." Thank you, brother. I greatly appreciate that. That means a lot, and I'm glad that the round 2 did come through for you. Hopefully, we can make some more magic this week. And Peter Cirillo in the chat, nice and easy. Mystic Sosa saying 20 beans. He can go buy himself a bunch of beard oil now. Exactly. I got to keep this thing looking nice and luscious for y'all, right? Peter Cirillo saying this is the worst main event in UFC history. There's been some doozies out there. I would say Jessica Eye and Cynthia Calvillo was worse than this one, name value wise and entertainment potential wise. That was probably the worst. Let's be honest. Mr. Sosa saying his main event is Geoff Neal versus Neal Magny. I absolutely agree. Let's just see what the chat is saying here. I'm gonna just quickly get through this. Big Bird PH got 5.5 units on Gillespie. He seems like the big guy here. He seems like everybody's main spots. I'll let you guys know how I feel once we get over to that. My guy, the interim view, I think he only has 3 or 4 days left in the hospital. Shout out to you. Appreciate you stopping on by as you always do. Glad that I can fill your time and make the time go by faster, hopefully. Not being spoiled with this main event, but some great fights nonetheless. Exactly. Ryan Grant saying Tafon and Gillespie are the locks of the card. I may or may not agree. Sarah, it's 1 2 3 saying Tafon the real lock, money bet value. Not sure. Big Bird saying Carlston Harris could play too. I do agree with that. Ryan Grant saying, "What's up, you beautiful bastard? What's up with you, my guy? I appreciate you stopping by." Nick Sisson stopping by saying, "What's up, y'all? Past 2 weeks have been absolutely fabulous. Let's keep it going this week, my friends. Hope everybody hit that like button. Let's get the party started." Yes, thank you. Let's do that for sure. Hit that like. Ryan Grant saying you still look sharp even in 140p. I got to get this shit fixed up. Let me see what the podcast is looking like. We got 2 minutes left in that. So hopefully once that's done, everything starts to get good to go. Gio Gennaro saying we've got a main event. We've got an MMA lock of the night breakdown. Let's go. I'm down. The Big Bird P8 saying Matt Pre versus KB Buller in Rec MMA 3.0. That would be some shit, wouldn't it? Nick West, Big Bird Ottawa here. Yep. Jose Lopez, big ups, lock of the night. The man, stream quality is bad, but the beer is still groomed and shine. Thank you. I don't know what it is, but hopefully it fixes itself. Royal asking, do you think Magny has a chance against Geoff Neal? I will let you know very shortly once we get into there. Nick West reminding you guys 10 lock streak and 11 card profit streak. Let's fucking go. We're killing it. Evan Crawl in the chat. What's going on lock? How are the rest of you scrubs doing? John Kelly DFS saying the thumbnail got me. It always gets you, John. It always gets you. Jose Lopez saying me and Die Hard MMA need a weekly show together. We got some pretty stacked schedules as is, but maybe in the future we can get something put together. All right. It's still processing. So hopefully once that podcast is done. Oh, I see 2 bars in my quality changing. So hopefully everything. It should be good to go. Should be crystal clear now. Waiting for it to respond on the YouTubes. Oh, beautiful. The beard's looking nice. All right. Let me just unlist that and save. All right. So once this podcast is done, or once this live stream is done, my pre-recorded version of this podcast will drop. That's where as soon as I'm done doing the research, I'll hop into the chair and do my recorded breakdown with everything fresh on my mind. So that's what you guys are going to be getting on that episode, which will be uploaded as soon as this live stream is done. All right. Let's get into this bad boy. Oh, I just wanted to make sure that the stream looked good, and it does. Let's fucking go. All right, let's start up this slideshow. I feel like I'm back in high school every time I start this fucking this slideshow for you guys, but it is what it is. Let's get it going. Share screen. There we go. And it is bugging out for some reason. Give me 1 sec. All right. There you go. First and foremost, we always go over the last events recap, even if it's a win, even if it's a loss. Transparency 101. You share how you did in the last event betting wise. And these were my official bets. I had my lock of the night play was Sean Strickland minus 265 units, hits for plus 1.92 units. Pretty easy fight there, right? Everybody pretty much called out one, but that's the definition of a lock of the night. Just saying, nice and easy. Don't got to sweat it. And that's exactly what happened last weekend with Sean Strickland coming through for us. Also, dog of the night play, TJ Brown hits plus 1.34 units. And the MMA judges were on my side this weekend. Obviously, they're eventually going to take it back one of these days. But I'll take it this weekend. It's good being on the side, the right side of a bad decision. My guy, George Metexopoulos, letting us know lock of the night and robbery of the night. You're damn right. I'll take the money when I can. I'm sure one day in the future, they are going to eventually take it from me anyway. So what it doesn't matter. Cash the bet. That's all that matters at the end of the day. And yeah, pretty clean night. You know what I mean? I picked my main lock of the night spot, and then I picked my dog of the night spot. Obviously, TJ Brown didn't perform to the way that I expected him to, but he still comes out with the win, and that's all that matters to me. So all in all, plus 3.26 units on the night in dollars for me. I'm at $100 units, so that's plus $326 for me, not to mention a ton of untracked plays that cash for me as well. There was that crazy 3-event parlay that I had that capped off with Sean Strickland and Yuri Prochazka to help me cash $2,300. So that was nice. Got to keep it going, got to keep it running. So I'm not too mad at it. All right, let's get into the breakdowns here, and let's not waste too much time. First fight of the night, and I believe this is the confirmed order thanks to my guy Big Marcel. First fight that we got up is Carlston Harris versus Christian Aguilera. God, I feel bad for a Christian having to be named Christian Aguilera at the same time that Christina Aguilera is popping off. But it is what it is. He turned all that anger into becoming an MMA fighter, and he's done a decent job on the regional scene. Obviously, he made his UFC debut 2 fights ago, where he was able to knock out Anthony Ivy as a plus 150 underdog, and it definitely came through for him there. But then his next fight against Sean Brady, obviously coming in as a plus 360 underdog, a very tough fight for him to overcome, and he just was not able to do so. What he brings to the table is mainly a striking game, has good power in his hands, and if he's able to go out there and actually get his hands on you, you are more than likely going to be in trouble. He was one of those guys that benefited from the whole COVID era, given that it was he was only coming off of 2 straight wins, not to mention his, the loss right before that was a knockout to a former UFC fighter in David Rashad. He puts together 2 more wins, and now he finds himself inside the UFC, so good for him. He's going up against Carlston Harris, who did wow Dana White over there at the UAE Warriors 15 event, which was also co-promoting with Egos FC, which is the one I believe that Khabib starts to, or is now looking after. They're co-promoting. They did a looking for a fight show there, and Carlston Harris pulls off a beautiful Darce choke over Izagak Mayev. Absolutely butchered that, but it is what it is. Gets the beautiful Darce choke over him and showcases his grappling, which is pretty much his game, right? He wants to smother you. He wants to put you up against the cage, or if at best, he wants to drag you to the ground and start looking for a submission. He seems to be a very strong grappler. He's 33 years old, which is a little bit concerning because if he wants to get it going and start sniffing a title, he's going to have to really start making dominant decisions inside the cage and putting away guys. Christian Aguilera seems like a guy that fits the mold of somebody that he can go out there and actually finish, and I'm expecting him to do so this weekend. The only reservations I have here is that Anthony Ivy was in a similar situation here with Christian Aguilera, where Anthony Ivy looked really good on the regional scene. Big, very imposing dude, was always able to clinch up with his opponents, drag them to the ground, and then eventually submit them or at least grind them out. But he just couldn't get that going with Aguilera at all. And then, before he knew it, Christian Aguilera had knocked him out about a minute into that fight. So I might have some PTSD from that fight because I had Anthony Ivy in a parlay, and maybe that's what's keeping me back from betting Carlston Harris here. But I do think that Harris wins this fight. I think he has the better striking game, albeit he's more of a pot shotter than anything. It just seems like he's trying to set up his takedowns, and he doesn't mind taking his time doing so, but he's not really throwing combinations or anything out there. He likes to set up his takedowns with just again, pot shotting, waiting for his opportunity, and then closing the distance, and then going for the takedowns. So I like what we see from Harris. I'm enthralled to see what he brings to the table once he comes to the UFC, and I think that this is a great stylistic matchup for him to show off of what he brings to the table. And I think he gets Aguilera down, and I think he grinds him out en route to a decision victory. I'll give Aguilera the benefit of the doubt that I think he'll be able to stay out of the submission game of Carlston Harris, as I don't think it's like super high level. I don't think it's Sean Brady level. But I think we'll see him go out there and just grind this decision victory out over Christian Aguilera to get a victory in his UFC debut. And see what the chat is saying here, and then we'll move on to the next one. Dave Crack, Christian Genie in the bottom, Aguilera. Mystic Souza, I had Kamaka by decision, no bet. Tim Triano in the chat. It's Gregor fight week. That's absolutely sure. Martial arts fan. I like me some Harris. Nick West, no matter what, you should never risk money on Kai Fade the third. Wail Al Gadban saying, Stop boys, who got that second round KO bet for last week's main event? I know one of my guys here just actually donated to you, boy, for that exact call. So you're welcome. Big Bird PA saying Ivy ain't much of a win. He's not UFC level. Well, yeah, I found that out the hard way. Obviously, he gets goes out there and gets fucked up by Brian Barberena afterwards, and I don't think he's in the UFC anymore. Nick West shares as a pick, but I won't be putting anything on it or parlay it. I agree. Mystic Souls Ivy crows up too much. I agree. Big Bird PH saying Harris can grind on Aguilera. He has a grappling advantage. Only issue is his chin has to hold up. Yeah, Christian Aguilera. Say what you want about him, make as fun about him as much as you want, but the guy does have some heat in his hands, and that is something to be concerned with. George Metaxopoulos. Don't bet serious money on this fight. I agree. Dorzan.com saying Luana Carolina ended up winning. Yeah, that was a stunner. That was a stunner for me. But again, no serious money on that fight, so I'm not too worried. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. We got Jun Park versus Tafon and Nchukwi. We got minus 140 on Nchukwi, plus 120 on Jun Park. And I wouldn't even be surprised if the line is starting to widen once again. Let me just pull up best fight odds one more second. Yeah, it's still minus 140 plus 120. It was funny because we had Tafon open up at minus 170, then got up to about minus 135, and now he's back down to minus 140. This is a tough fight, man. A lot of people are heavily on Tafon here, and the guy's 26 years old. He's still young. He doesn't not look 26 years old at all. I'll absolutely admit that, and I think a lot of people would say the same thing. But he's still very raw in his career, right? He's only 5-0. He's going out there and knocking out four of his first four opponents, especially Almatavio on the Contender Series. And then he goes out there for his first ever decision victory against Jamie Pickett in his UFC debut. But Jamie Pickett, not really a solid guy in my opinion. I'd actually even take Jun Park over Jamie Pickett, to be honest. Now, Jun Park has 16 fights. He has way more experience. He's gone out there against a solid amount of competition, even on the regional scene. Earlier, his second last loss was to Shavkat Rakhmonov, who just made his UFC debut back in October, when he was able to quickly guillotine choke out Mr. Alex Cowboy Oliveira. Jun Park obviously showed off a great wrestling game in his last fight against John Phillips, but then again, that's fucking John Phillips. He was able to get 13 and a half minutes of control time off of 4 takedowns. So is what it is. Obviously, Jun Park was Junyon Nurmagomedov that night. And then the Marc-Andre Barriault fight, I think he lands 4 or 5 takedowns in that fight, but not able to get just as much control time as he was in the Phillips fight. It seems like Park has a solid all-around game. He has, throws in solid combinations, mixes up the MMA game pretty well, has a solid chin. You know what I mean? I'm pretty certain he hasn't been knocked out in his career, as most of his losses have come via submission, and he only has 4 losses, right? It's not like he's going out there and getting knocked out or submitted every other fight. He has 2 decision losses and 2 submission losses. I've seen him take some big shots, even by John Phillips, for the little bit of time that the fight was on the feed. One thing, even though Phillips is a very bad fighter, the one thing he definitely has a lot of power in his shots. I've never really seen Park truly rocked and hurt to an extent that I thought he was about to get finished by strikes. And that's obviously one thing you want to worry about coming into this fight with Tafon and Nchukwi. And Nchukwi seems to pace himself very well until he gets the knockout, but I'm interested to see what he looks like when he gets pushed by somebody that's able to set the pace on themselves. And I think that's what we might be getting here with Jun Park. Now, it's not the biggest of leans, and it's not the, me running to the betting window to put money on Jun Park here, but I think he can mix it up well enough to give Nchukwi some issues. I'm not totally sold on Nchukwi's takedown defense. We saw Jamie Pickett able to get him down, but he wasn't able to get him down much more after that. But like I said earlier, I do believe that Jun Park is a much better fighter than Jamie Pickett. The lack of competition and lack of experience from Nchukwi is very concerning as well, right? The guy's very raw. He has good striking, don't get me wrong. He has judo in his back pocket, but how much is that truly going to help him against a guy that's going to, mix up the MMA game as well as Jun Park? Now, unless Tafon goes out there and knocks out Park in that first round, then obviously I'm going to look like a complete idiot here. But the longer this fight goes, I actually do lean Park. I think that he can put the pace and pressure on Nchukwi, push him up against the cage, drown him almost, and then really let that the cardio start to affect Tafon. I still believe that Tafon has a bad gas tank. Now, we've only seen him in the third round once against Jamie Pickett, and he was able to do some good work in that fight. But that was a fight where he's the one setting the pace. He's the one dictating the pace, whereas Jun Park, I believe, will be the one dictating the pace. And I think that once we get past that first round, he'll be able to he'll be more assertive in terms of trying to close the distance and implementing his game and getting his game going. And that's going to be centered around, clinch fucking, drowning Tafon. Don't give him the space that he needs to operate, and then hopefully start landing some takedowns later that this fight goes. So I am on the Park side here. I'm predicting him to win via decision. Hence why the line is as close as it is, right? Like even the amount of love that Park has been getting from the public, I absolutely agree with it. I think he's a much more complete fighter here, and as long as he doesn't get knocked out, like I said in that first round, it's going to get very, very hairy for our guy Tafon Nchukwi. So I think another play that might be sneaky. Let me see what the total is at. Yeah, the total is set at over 2.5. So even over 1.5 is minus 225. And the later this fight goes, the less excited I'd be if I'm holding on to a Tafon Nchukwi ticket. So yeah, I'm on Park here. I'm going to predict him to win by decision, and I think he shows the holes in Tafon's game. And again, Tafon's only 5-0, guys. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Sure, he looks intimidating. Sure, he looks like an absolute world beater, but looks don't kill. You know what I mean? Looks don't win you MMA fights. And I still have a lot of question marks what he brings to the table. All right, let's see what the chat says here, and then let's get the hell moving on. Ryan Grant is hammering Tafon Nchukwi. Nick West, Park put decent pressure on Benoit. However, Benoit did travel overseas for that fight, I think, and it affects them just like it affects the overseas fighters coming over here. Noah is saying powerbar and John Phillips bottom of the barrel, UFC wins. Benoit, I wouldn't say completely bottom of the barrel, but I agree that John Phillips is a bottom of the barrel type of win. But let's not use that narrative, or like we can use the narrative to a certain extent of what their past competition has looked like and what they are like. But the Jun Young Park is at the mercy of the matchmakers at this spot, right? He had a very crazy fight against Anthony Hernandez in his debut. He ends up losing that fight late via submission. But again, they offer him up Benoit and Phillips, and he does what he needs to do to win those fights, and he gets the wins. Bob's Burgers asking if my province is in lockdown. Yeah, I'm in Ontario, and if I'm not mistaken, we're the ones getting hit most by it. But I don't really see it. I'm working from home, obviously doing this thing full time. Don't really go out much, so I don't really give a shit, to be honest. Biggs Omega in the chat. What's going on, my guy? Big Bird PH saying Tafon, in my opinion, is going to out muscle Park in the clinch. Should be able to get Park. Doesn't really control guys. Think it's Tafon all day on the feet. Park needs to drop a fucking. I agree. Craig Metaxopoulos. I'm gonna always butcher that name, so I'm just going with George every time now. I'm gonna just say George. Again, it's minus 225 now, so that's juice to shit. Noah saying Jimmy Pickett is pretty trash too. I agree. Sarich, a guy like Tafon is growing so much. Can't see a guy like Park beating him for 3 straight wins in the UFC. Noah saying, question for me is, can Park close the distance without getting caught? I think he can. Killer G is saying, my biggest question is just Tafon. Will Tafon be able to hold Park against the fence? Don't think so. Put a bet on Park at plus 130-ish. I don't mind that. Buffalo on the beat. The heads on your stats remind me of a Pez dispenser. Very nostalgic. I'll take that as a good thing, maybe. Nick West, I watched a bit more tape on these two, and I think Park will pressure Tafon more, and if he doesn't get clipped, grind out decision. I agree. Greco and Nero, this guy picked Waterson over Rodriguez. I did. I hope he will stop the show next week. Then why are you here? If I picked Waterson over Rodriguez, why are you here? Why are you watching this? I got Tafon. Noah saying Malcolm versus Alasan type fight could happen. Possibly. I parlay. I'll take Park by decision. Sean O'Brien, Tafon surely has 2 good rounds in him before gassing. Should be enough for the decision. Possibly, right? He needs to give us at least a solid 8 minutes before anything. Fernando Cunha between PFL and Bellator this weekend. Kelly Harrison, Venom Page, Lock Parlay. I haven't looked into Bellator myself yet, but there are a couple of spots that I'm eyeing, and I've let my Patreon members know. I apologize, Fernando. So you should know this. I feel like I've told you this before. Check out the Patreon. I've already talked about who my leans are there and who I'm going to be looking to hit once full odds have dropped. Nick West, Sean has 1 good round if it's a good price, which Park will make it. David Zhao, reminding you guys, please do hit that like for your Canadian homie. We're at 31 right now, and we're up to 111 live viewers, so that's great. Arlen M. Park, one of many good underdog spots on this card. Yes. Absolutely agree. Peter Cirillo in the chat. What's going on, my brother? George Metaxopoulos. Pickett has a very solid chin. Not sure if Tafon does not have lights out KO power, or if his first matchup was misleading. Tafon KO or Park decision, leaning towards Park. Right there with you, my guy. Ryan Gransing, as Peaky Blinders once said, big FS small, give me Teflon. Big F small, I like it. Larissa and Alpha is a good parlay piece. You mean PFL? Hidden Treasure, if that's the case, Kennedy would have smashed Kelvin Gastelum. Yep. John, is adding Rampage to any parlay this week a disaster or happened to? I'm thinking you're talking about Rumble, but I would not touch Rumble this week. Waleed Raid is saying Tafon is a huge size fan. He said in an interview he cuts 40 pounds. That could fuck him, right? Again, that could possibly come into play with his cardio issues in this fight. And if Park is successful in pushing the pace, it's going to look very disgusting. All right. Let's move on to the next fight here. We got Ryan Benoit against Zarrukh Adashev, and I think that this is another spot where the underdog may surprise some people, unless Ryan Benoit decides to bring out his wrestling singlet and bring this fight to the ground and try to get that grappling and that jiu-jitsu going that he's been training with Gary Tonin over there, and maybe he takes the leg home with him this weekend. However, not a big fan of Ryan Benoit. I don't think the guy's a truly skilled fighter, and I'm very questionable, or I question, I should say, his wrestling and his ability to get the fight to the ground. Now, Adashev obviously doesn't have the greatest record. 3-3 is a very abysmal record to have in the UFC. But let's not forget, the guy came into the UFC 3-1, super short notice, up a weight class against a much bigger Tyson Nam, gets slept in that fight. Then the UFC does him no favors by giving him another fight in the UFC against a very hot prospect in Sumadarji, and he passes the test in terms of not getting starched immediately, as a lot of people were expecting him to, and he gets to that second and third rounds, makes it to a decision, but still goes out there and gets outstruck. I want to say 50-28 or something like that. But Sumadarji put on a solid pace on him and was able to kind of keep him on the outside. So he was at the mercy of size and reach disadvantage in that fight. Now, this is a fight more up his alley, right? Same height. He's going to be at a roughly 3-inch reach advantage, right, or disadvantage, but I don't think that's going to be too detrimental to his approach in this fight. And I think that he has a really good shot to go out there and start piecing up Ryan Benoit. Now, if you guys watch Zarrukh's earlier fights in Bellator, you see him, he mainly comes from a Glory kickboxing background. He has a couple fights over there where he was mainly a point fighter. But when he transitioned on over to Bellator, you see him trying to mix up the MMA game, right? You see him trying to go for takedowns, take the back of his opponents, and flowing on top, and really trying to get his repetitions in the live cage atmosphere rather than just in training. And those are good signs to me. But he just wasn't able to really show that against Tyson Nam, obviously because that fight was super short. And then Sumadarji, who I believe was just much, much better than him at that time. Ryan Benoit obviously is a much more experienced fighter here, being in the cage against much more experienced and talented guys that have been in the UFC. And obviously his biggest win to date has got to be that fluke Hail Mary knockout over Sergio Pettis in that third round, where Pettis was pretty much letting him up for about 12 or 13 minutes up until that point. I think that he's just not that great of a fighter. Like, look at his last two wins. Freddie Serrano, no longer in the UFC, no idea where the fuck he is or who he is anymore. And then Ashkan Mokhtarian. If you guys have been following me for a while, you guys know what I think about the Mokhtarian brothers, and they're definitely not that high level. So for Benoit to be getting those wins, okay, good for you. But then you lose every other fight that you're going up against. And then again, Brandon Moreno, obviously improving on a fight-to-fight basis. And we've seen what he was able to do in his title fight last time around against Davison Figueiredo. The Haile Alatang fight was super close. The Tim Elliott fight grinds him out a couple times in that second round, and then picks up the one of the, I think it was the first or the third round, just by outstriking Ryan Benoit from the outside. That's been Benoit's problems. A lot of guys want to take him down and grind him out. Now he can just stand on the feet and strike with Adashev if that's what he chooses to do. Or I think he's going to get taken down, or I think that Ryan Benoit will look for the takedown here and try to take home a leg. Just because, like, one of the drums that he's been beating for the last two fights is that he's working with Gary Tonin. He's trying to work on his jiu-jitsu game, and if he's able to implement that here against Adashev, it's probably an easy fight for him. But like I said, I don't think his wrestling game is up to par, and I think we'll see Adashev actually keep this fight vertical, and we should see him win the technical striking fight. I'm going to take Adashev to win this fight via decision, as I do think he's a much crisper striker on the feet. He's way more technical. His movement is very solid, and I think it's going to cause Ryan Benoit some issues here. So I'm going to Adashev, and I'm going to take him to win by decision. All right, let's see what the chat says here, and then we can keep this train moving along. Big Bird PH saying Zarrukh shouldn't be in the USA, and they got him too early. The guy's 28, right? So, yeah, he probably should have had a couple more fights. But again, another fighter just like Christian Aguilera, who benefited from this whole COVID situation. Raul is saying your picks are fire. If not the disqualification and draw, I would have cashed out heavy. Thank you. No worries, brother. I got you. Mystic Souza put Benoit in his parlays. Risky mans. MMA Kappa NZ saying both these lads will be going hard. Being on the chopping block could be a war. I agree. That's what gives me the hesitation in terms of betting Adashev. If Benoit actually brings out that wrestling singlet and takes him to the ground and actually is successful in doing so, it's not going to look that good for Adashev. So, that's why I probably won't be going to the betting window to bet Zarrukh here. George saying Sue was overhyped coming into that fight, though. He does not carry KO power. The Gordon KO is misleading. MMALOTN, I could KO Gordon as long as he lands once. I like Benoit here. Interesting. I wouldn't say Sue was overhyped. I just think that people were heavily fading Zarrukh as well, right? Like a lot of people get into that weird mindset of, okay, if a guy gets starched in his last fight, more than likely he's going to get starched his next fight. Jacob Malkoun has shown us that is not the case. KB Buller, even though he didn't get the win, showed us that's not the case. So people just fall into that quick, okay, what have you done for me lately? Oh, you got knocked out quickly? One punch? You're probably going to get knocked out again in your next fight. Walid Raid saying this is the Jacob Malkoun effect. Gets slept bad in the debut, but will have a good account of himself here. I agree. That hidden treasure, I like Benoit for his experience, and I like that he's more composed than Adashev's rushing style. I think we'll see a little bit more composed of a Zarrukh here, given that, metric-wise and how he sizes up with Benoit is much more favorable for him here. Robo ABC is saying I already hit the like in case I fall asleep. It's 1:35 in the UK at the minute. God damn, you're a diehard to be staying up and watching your boy right now. But I do greatly appreciate it. Walid Raid Adashev trains with guys like Timur Vliv and Frankie Edgar. Got to take that into note. Big Bird PH, I think Benoit going to grapple if he has any good coaches. That's a clear path to victory. Yeah, I agree. That's what scares me as to why I won't be betting Adashev. But in the case that Benoit doesn't, I think that Adashev will cruise on the feet here. Noah Adashev was very reckless and had a terrible striking defense pre-NAM fight. Adashev by decision. MMA Kappa, good breakdown log. Changed my mind on Benoit with that analysis. Plus Adashev, dog guts. Again, I'm not putting anything crazy on Adashev. He'll probably just be in like a lottery parlay. But I'm not dying on this hill that's saying that Adashev is a lock or something like that. Beltbear saying all these fighters on this card are expendable. Yeah, a lot of these are on the chopping block, right? So they might actually lose their job if they lose this fight. Noah saying Adashev is the worst fighter in the UFC, in my opinion. God damn, that's some serious hate right there. I think there's some worse fighters. Let's be honest. I'm sure a couple of the commenters here can actually say a couple fighters are probably worse. Maybe, I don't want to say about my guy KB, but, showing little to no urgency in his fight against Mihailidis this past weekend could put him into that mold as well. There's so many other fighters that I can think of that I would say are worse than Adashev. Noah saying KB Buller also ran and threw dick kicks the whole time. George Metaxopoulos saying 3:39 a.m. in Greece. God damn. Absolute savage. I greatly appreciate the sport. Don't you got work in the morning or some shit, my guy? Greece is definitely one of those places that I want to visit in the very near future, but we'll wait until the world opens up first. Adrian Anderson is saying, I think Benoit is a little underrated. He isn't great, but I do think he beat Tim Elliott, to be honest. I thought Elliott won that fight, but I do get where you're coming from there. Adashev should have bet him when he was at plus 170. Yeah, the line was absolutely out of whack when it opened up. Adrian Anderson, Anthony Ivory is the worst fighter than Adashev. I think you might be right there, but I don't think Anthony Ivory is in the UFC anymore. You guys are just ragging on my guy KB right now. Is it cool with you if support send you BTC through Cash App as a thank you? Unfortunately, I don't have Cash App. We don't have Cash App up here in Canada. I do have Coinbase. If anybody wants to send over some BTC, that's always appreciated. But I'll always say I don't like accepting tips. Like super chat is great and all that, but the thing that I would appreciate the most is the Patreon. $5 a month. I know it seems like pennies to you guys, but the amount of people that I have support me through there is just absolutely amazing, which allows me to do this thing from a full-time thing, right? We're up to close to 350 members right now on the Patreon, which is absolutely amazing. So shout out to everybody. Jay Tucker Sinkadan from New Jersey. Ooh, Hidden Treasure saying Cindy Dano is definitely the worst. She's fighting this weekend at PFL as well. All right, let's get on to the next fight here. Shout out to my guy, Some Solution in the chat here. All right, we got Mike Trizano against Ludovit Klein, and this is the biggest favorite that we have on the card, right? Ludovit Klein coming in off that crazy knockout victory over Shane Yong in his UFC debut. If I'm not mistaken, he opened up as the underdog in that fight, and a lot of money ended up coming on him pretty quickly, and he quickly became the dog, and he quickly became the favorite, and he showed why he should have been the favorite to begin with. And great striking, right? The guy has a very impressive record, 17-2, doing his thing over there on the European scene. I think most of his fights came with that promotion Octagon with a K, not a C. And he was holding it down, right? Any comers that was coming up to him, he was able to push them away. You know, whether it was veteran Brazilian fighters or other European fighters, he was able to take them on and put them away. His last loss was to Aiden Lee. If you guys follow Cage Warriors, Aiden Lee's from there. He was able to submit Ludovit Klein, I believe, in the first round. So that was the last time we've seen Klein actually accept defeat. I think the last time Klein is actually, I believe Klein is currently on an 8-fight winning streak, which is very, very impressive. And I think he's coming into the UFC with a lot of heat here, and especially into this matchup with a lot of heat because of that, the way that he was able to dispose of Shane Young. So this is almost like the reverse Jacob Malkoun effect, where I believe the line is heavily influenced by that knockout. Now, if you're giving me Ludovit Klein or before that Shane Young knockout, this line is probably -150, and only Klein being the favorite strictly due to Trizano coming off of roughly a 2-year layoff now, right? That's why I truly think that the cookie crumbles. Like, that's where I truly think that the difference is, and I think that these guys are a little bit more closely matched in the talent department, man. I think Trizano is forever underrated. I think the kid's pretty good. Tiger Showman pupil, obviously training with Shane Burgos, Julio Arce, Lyman Good, and all those guys over there at Showman Muay Thai, and he shows off some decent striking, right? He has some close fights with Joe Giannetti and Luis Pena, but I still think he's growing as a fighter. It doesn't help that he hasn't been the most active inside the cage, dealing with injuries and just staying out of the cage. And he was scheduled to fight Rafael Alves a couple months ago, and unfortunately had to pull out of that fight. That was a fight as well that he came in as the underdog, or was coming in as the underdog. And I saw a lot of people on Trizano in that spot, and I probably would have been on Trizano as well had I done the tape before that fight had gotten canceled at that point. I like him here too, man, ever so slightly. I think the value for sure is on the Trizano side here. I think I'm going to get called crazy throughout this week because everybody's going to be on Klein, hence why the line is where it's at. People are thinking that Klein is like the safest parlay piece on this card, and I ever so slightly disagree. Like, sure, he could win, but I don't agree with the line at all here. Like, I think that the obviously the experience advantage goes to Klein here with having close to 19 fights and Trizano having 10 less than that. But I think the level of training that he's been getting, the guys that he's working with, you know, having the fights that he's already had are great experiences and great tools for him to bring into this fight against Klein. Now, Klein, they kind of have similar styles, but I'd have to give the slight advantage to Klein in terms of the combinations and the power that he puts into these strikes. But I don't think we've truly seen him tested to the level that Trizano could potentially push him here. I think that Trizano is live here. I'm gonna pick him to win this fight, but it's not to the extent of will I go out there and actually bet him. Now, if this line continues to drive into the Klein side and we get Klein up there at -300, -320, you guys might be forcing my hand to take the value play on Trizano, but I do think that he's going to make a much tougher time for Klein. And Again, tear me to shreds. Say what you want. Even if Klein ends up winning this fight, I'm not mad at sticking it out with Trizano in this spot, as I do think he's a reliable fighter, and he's not going to have to worry about a Grant Dawson type shellacking coming his way. But I do think that Trizano is a live underdog, and I wouldn't be shocked if he goes out there and springs the upset. So I'll go with Trizano to win by decision in this spot. And again, I do have some high hopes for Klein, and if he passes this test with flying colors, I'll be a little bit more sold on him. But I do like me some Trizano in the spot. Wael Al-Gadban saying, I got a big bet on Hill, Greene, and Magny. I can't wait to see what Locke has to say. Ooh, I can't wait to get into those for you. Jets Booty 69 Gaming, thank you for the $5 donation. He's saying KB's chin is worth $5. Absolute savage. I appreciate the dono, my brother. JSJ Ladovid is a boss. Yeah, he's a solid fighter for sure. Buffo on the beat saying he's everyone's darling. I agree. MMA Kappa NZ saying Ladova has the advantages everywhere besides height and maybe strength. Yeah, that's the spot or that's a part of it I didn't really touch on was, the 4-inch height advantage here for Mike Trizano. That's definitely going to help him out in terms of trying to keeping Klein at range, getting his kickboxing game off, or if he wants to get in on the outside and try to, out clinch and outwork Klein in that situation or in those scenarios. I think that's something that he could absolutely do as well. Noah saying KB Buller whiffed axe kick to the trademark dick kick comment was being studied by Trevor Whitman. God. Mystic Souls, I'll take Klein by TKO first round. That layoff and that head kick will land. 3 back-to-back head kick TKOs. Yeah, that wouldn't be bad. Yeah, again, the layoff is another thing that kind of worries me here for Trizano. George is saying, I think Klein will get it. I don't like the price. I agree. Martial arts fan likes him some Klein. UFC Rob or UCF Rob. I always say UFC Rob. God damn it. Locke likes the dogs this week. Yeah, I do think there are a lot of live dogs this week. Waleed Raid saying Trizano going to a split decision with Luis Pena is not a good look. Again, that was a little while ago now too, right? Let's cut him some slack. Got to believe that he's been making some improvements in that amount of time for sure. Big Bird PH style layoff from Mike, not good. Fights pass for me. I agree. Brian Anthony's, I'm still convinced Trizano lost to Bob Ross. Close fight. Bob Bear saying puppy or pass. Right there with you. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. We got Kyle Daukaus against Phil Hawes, -135 on Daukaus and +115 on Phil Hawes. And we've seen two different sides of the Daukaus brothers since coming into the UFC, right? You're seeing Chris go out there and knock these guys out with his fast hands, very quick. Obviously, his speed is something that he's trying to implement at that heavyweight division, and he seems to get slimmer and slimmer every single time around, and his hands seem to get faster and faster. Kyle Daukaus on the other side, we're seeing a little bit more of a grapple-heavy approach. Obviously, that debut fight that he had against Brendan Allen, where he came in as a +290 dog on short notice, he fought tooth and nail to try to spring the upset there, and it made a much more closer fight than a lot of people were expecting Brendan Allen to be going up against that night. Kyle Daukaus, the black belt in jiu-jitsu, and that's definitely where he gets his work done the most, as 8 out of his 10 victories have come via submission. The Dustin Stoltzfus fight, one of the first things that the commentators say once that fight starts is Kyle wanted to go out there and actually get his striking game going and show off his tools over there. And I was kind of impressed with it, right? He still has some work to do there. Not saying that he's the greatest striker out there or anything like that, but he's definitely making some good improvements. And I did like what we've been seeing from him. Obviously, at the range and weight class that he's currently at, being 6'3" with a 76-inch reach, it's going to be good for him to learn how to use that distance, engage that distance, eventually, mixing it into takedowns, getting his opponents to the ground and getting his jiu-jitsu going. So I'm liking the improvements that we're seeing from him in his hands. Again, great jiu-jitsu player, 8 of his 10 wins by submission. I think that's a huge emphasis for him whenever he's going into fights. Phil Hawes, on the other hand, pulls off a decision victory for the first time in his career. And not only was it his first decision victory, it was the first time he's ever been to a decision period in his 12-fight career. So that was a big feather in his cap to get that fight out of the way. But, looking back at that fight now, you're just like, Nasruddin Imavov, probably not the greatest fighter, right? Like a decent fighter, but to get beaten by Phil Hawes that way was was not good, right? It was a majority split, I believe it was, or a majority decision, as I believe one judge gave a 10-8 to Imavov in that round 3, and the other 2 only gave him a 10-9. But Phil Hawes showed good wrestling, good grappling, good control, but his gas tank was definitely still an issue. But Imavov was just not able to capitalize on it to the best of his ability. Whenever Phil Hawes was tying up with him, he just didn't know what to do. Whereas I feel like Kyle Daukaus will know exactly what to do, whether it's going for a trip, getting the takedown, digging the underhooks and pushing Phil Hawes up against the cage himself and then going to work himself. I think that Kyle Daukaus is absolutely going to put it on Hawes in this fight. Now, there is a possibility that Hawes can go out there and knock him out in the first round. I do believe that is a possibility, but I don't think it's a possibility for him to go out there and grind out Kyle Daukaus. He's going to have a ton of trouble dealing with the jiu-jitsu game of Daukaus, not to mention the cardio advantage that Daukaus is going to have here. And if Phil Hawes is not able to get him out of there in that first round, I think Daukaus will be able to pull off that submission probably in the second round. Yeah, it's as simple as that. I think Phil Hawes has good wrestling, and I think it's going to be hard for Daukaus to get him down initially. But what good is wrestling if you don't have the cardio to back that shit up? And I think that Kyle Daukaus will be able to expose that from Phil Hawes. And I think that the longer this fight goes, the more it favors Kyle Daukaus. I don't think he's going to get wrapped up and nullified like Imavov was. I'd be very surprised if Daukaus actually gets wrapped up that way. Just watch this fight where Brendan Allen, right? The guy's getting cut up and taking so much damage from Brendan Allen, but continues to come back, gets the back of Brendan Allen for the majority of that third round. And if you're telling me that's Kyle Daukaus on the back of Phil Hawes in the third round, Kyle Daukaus has taken that neck home with him. I promise you that. So this is a perfect spot where you guys can go out there and go Phil Hawes round 1 or Kyle Daukaus round 2 or round 3. But I think the best spot here, to be honest, is the under 2.5. I was very surprised that they put it at 2.5 as I expected them to put it at 1.5. But for some reason, everybody thinks Phil Hawes is a decision fighter now, even though he's only been to one decision in his 12-fight career. If you want to add these guys' records together, you got 23 fights in total. 19 of those fights have gone inside the distance. And I think this one is going to follow suit there with that trend. I think the under 2.5 hits with relative ease here. I feel very strongly about Kyle Daukaus, but I'm not going to overlook Phil Hawes' abilities to get the knockout early in round 1. And even though Kyle Daukaus has never been finished, we did see Brendan Allen drop him with a perfectly placed knee in that first round. But the toughness of Daukaus did come through, and he was still able to have success after that. So I expect this fight to finish inside the distance. I'm expecting it to be Kyle Daukaus that's going to be getting home or going home with the submission victory. And I do think that he's a very skilled fighter. I do think he has a very high ceiling, and his ever-improving game, especially with the striking, will give Phil Hawes issues. The last thing I'll say about this, so I forgot who it was. One of my buddies in my Twitter chats brought this to my attention, and it's absolutely true. Phil Hawes is not good off of his back foot. Every time he's the one moving backwards or, just gas enough where he's not able to get the takedown, or if he's not able to successfully clinch his opponent up against the cage, he's getting lit up on the feet, especially with his cardio depleting as much as it does. So Phil Hawes is still a very fadeable fighter. I do think that we'll see him, get touched up here by Kyle Daukaus, or at the worst, I think that we'll see Kyle Daukaus come home with the submission victory. So I love me some Kyle Daukaus in the spot, and if he doesn't get knocked out early here, I think it's going to look relatively easy. Some Solution right away. The first person I see is Some Solution saying he's on Hawes here. Big Bird P saying this fight is a perfect live betting spot. I agree. Noah saying finally my chance to fade Phil Hawes. Thank you, Noah. I'm right there with you. Hawes only made it to decision because he grabbed the fence for half the fight. Not just that, Imavov just didn't have great fight IQ. And even when he was hurting him in that third round, anytime Phil Hawes tried to close the distance and just clinch up with him, he willingly was clinching up with him. Like, what are you doing? You have this guy on rollerblades, and you're just going out there and just clinching up with the dude. Like, I expect Kyle Daukaus, if he's in a similar situation, to pivot off. Or if it is going to be a clinch, get the takedown right after that. Like, Kyle Daukaus is somebody that does pursue the takedowns himself quite a lot, so he can look for his submissions, so that he can look to go out there and take home a neck with him or take home a limb with him. So I like me some Hawes. Or sorry, I like me some Daukaus. Noah saying hashtag DJ Brown. Jay Tucker saying Hawes got tired as fuck. I agree. Big Bird, Daukaus doesn't have poor fight IQ unlike Imavov. That's my guy. Love you, Big Bird. George, Imavov fought terribly with a really gassed out Hawes, kept staying in the clinch with Hawes for no reason whatsoever. I'm expecting urgency from Kyle Daukaus in those situations, which is why I like the under 2.5, and which is why I really like Kyle Daukaus in the spot. MMA Cap is saying live Daukaus, like Daukaus, live bet here. Philly loses first round, takes over after that. I don't think he necessarily loses the first round, but he could definitely get finished in that first round. But he has some good upside to potentially win that first round too. Jay Tucker, he was getting rocked but survived, and one respect to him, expecting more from you, move off. Yep. Nick West, you got to think with the bigger dog, his brother throwing punches at him, he should be able to avoid or roll with much of what Hawes is throwing his way. Yeah. Phil Hawes' style is not going to work for against a higher level of opponents other than, you know, the Imavovs and stuff. Like even Jacob Malkoun, let's be honest, if he didn't start him early in that fight, it could have looked like the Al Hassan fight. Let's be honest, guys. Jay Tucker, if Phil doesn't KO Daukaus will win. Yeah. Daukaus is going to take this guy's neck home. I'm telling you. Arlen M. Daukaus' only loss is to Allen, and that's a good guy to lose to. Better than a Hawes' loss for sure. I agree. Jay Tucker says he needs to see the weigh-ins. I don't, to be honest. I'm still very confident in Kyle Daukaus here. This fight should be good for DK. A lot of grappling and both cheap. Yeah. I'm going to have me a ton of Kyle Daukaus, to be honest. Martial arts fan, I was thinking of taking Daukaus, but no bet. YBB, the Daukaus night arises. Shout out to my guy YBB. UCF Rob fun card, lots of close fights. Serge 123 saying how good is Trizano's wrestling? I think it's decent. I don't think it's fucking anything amazing. I don't think he's Khabib or anything like that, but I think it's good enough. Buffalo on the beat saying which one of these is more talented? Which one is the more talented fighter of the brothers? Kyle Daukaus, follow the BBB, aka the Tamor rule, bet the better brother. I think they're both good. They're both good in their own ways. I think they're both going to be successful in their respective divisions. I think Chris might go slightly further because he has less opposition to deal with in the heavyweight division, whereas middleweight I feel is a little bit more stacked than the heavyweight division. But Kyle should still be able to find himself within that top 10. I think so. Sarge 1 to 3, then that should be good enough for Klein to line that shot. Maybe. Jay Tucker saying Christ is a striker. He's a solid jiu-jitsu player himself, but it just seems to be doing this striking thing as of late, right? He's a black belt himself, and he used to, you know, kind of work his grappling on the regional scene as well. It's just recently that we've seen Chris in the UFC get his hands going. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. We got Ben Rothwell going up against Philipe Lins. Minus 115 on Rothwell, minus 105 on Philipe Lins. The line has been bouncing back and forth over the last couple of days, and I'm still just as confused about it as I was when I first heard about this matchup. I've done the research, I've run the tape, I've done all that type of shit, and I'm still coming out on the other end saying, don't know what the fuck is happening. Like I don't see how which way to confidently bet on this fight. So all in all, I'm just going to tell you guys to pass on it, but I will give you guys a prediction since that's what you guys are here for. I'm going to ultimately go with Philipe Lins. Now, as long as he doesn't go out there and get knocked out by Ben Rothwell, which we all know the last thing to go from a fighter is their power, I think Philipe Lins should be able to play his tactical approach, his tactical striking, calculated approach that he does, and outstrike Ben Rothwell. Now, Philipe Lins, not the greatest with his output. Like I said, he's calculated and he likes to take a methodical approach with his striking, and sometimes that puts him behind on the judges' scorecards. Say what you want about that Andrei Arlovsky fight, but that's what happens when you fight the way that Philipe Lins does. Luckily for him, Ben Rothwell seems to have a trigger issue himself too, so I don't think that Philipe Lins will be too far behind on the scorecards if we see Ben Rothwell actually throw some offense out there. I do think we'll see Lins draw or land the better strikes. I think he'll be the slightly faster fighter in this spot, and I think that Ben Rothwell's skill set is ever diminishing, and I do think that we see Philipe Lins get the win here. I think he gets it done by decision. That's why the line is at 2.5 and not 1.5. But in heavyweight fights, I will never bet that over 2.5 because I'll be sweating my balls regardless of how trigger shy these guys are. Ben Rothwell could absolutely plant a punch on Philipe Lins' chin and put him out. And the most concerning thing about having the Philipe Lins ticket is getting knocked out by Tanner Boser in his last fight. Tanner Boser is not much of a knockout artist. Like, I'm just going to pull it up real quick here to get the actual numbers, but I'm certain most of Tanner Boser's wins have actually come via decision and not so much via knockout. Okay, I lied. 10 of his 19 wins by knockout, 7 by decision, 2 by decision, or 2 by submission. So I lied on that front. But as of late, Tanner Boser hasn't really been a knockout guy. He knocks out Rafael Pessoa, knocks out Philipe Lins. For that, decisions, Daniel Spitz. TKO leg kick somebody on the regional scene. Then what? 3 more decision victories, and then a KO victory over Dave Cryer. So that is a little bit of a concern for me on the Philipe Lin side. What's his durability looking like? He's definitely not the fighter that people expected him to be when he came over from the PFL. And look at the odds that he was at with Andre Arlovski, right? He's minus 235. Everybody expected him to go in there and cruise against old man Arlovski. Just didn't happen. Say what you want about the decision. The guy still fought a close fight. That's what his style is predicated around. And I think that's what causes him issues. But luckily for him, I think that Ben Rothwell fits the mold here of a guy that he can go out there and outwork. I would like to see Philipe Lin's mixing the takedowns here, as I don't think that Ben Rothwell's jiu-jitsu game is as good off of his back as he is with being the guy on top or defending takedowns, like with that 5-finger choke that I used to do against Matt Mitrione and Josh Barnett. Those days are long gone. This is 39-year-old Ben Rothwell, and yeah, you can get away with being older in the heavyweight division, but I don't think that the decrease that we've been seeing in Ben Rothwell's game is going to allow him to hold up for much longer. So I like Philipe Lin's here. Very little confidence, but I think he wins this fight via decision. Let's see what the chat is saying here. Some solution is on Rothwell. Jay Tucker saying not betting this. I absolutely agree. Buffalo on the beat saying, when did they let Big Ben out of the geriatric center? Jay Tucker saying, leave this out of parlays. I absolutely agree. Bo Jackson's on Rothwell. Andy Price in the chat saying, keep up the good work. I appreciate you stopping by my guy. JSG saying, I can't fade Clint's dad. Big Bird PA saying, Lynn's off from Flintstones vitamins since PFL. UFC probably wants him gone considering his salary. Yeah, they paid some big bucks for him. Nick West saying, Lynn's versus Rothwell is a 10-coiled steamer. Bo Jackson, he let it go in the Tybura fight. And he ended up losing that fight. That's my main concern here. Tybura is a good fighter, and he mixed it up very well, too, with the takedowns. And I think if Philipe Lin looks to take the same type of approach, he could be victorious. But yeah, I'm not betting this fight. George is saying, pass the F out of this fight. Lin's getting KO'd by Bozer is a pretty bad look, but Rothwell is not to be trusted either. I agree. I had some money on Rothwell in that Tybura fight as well, so that was a very big concern. Big Bird PH, I'll never forgive Bozer after killing all my parlays the night Glover won. Yeah, I think I had Bozer in a parlay that night too, and hit pretty big on Glover that night. Revice Rahat saying, what up? Appreciate you stopping by, my guy. Dirty Reg, you act as if Bozer can't fight, George. Okay. Even I'm not betting it. Andy Price. My guy, Andy Price, bets on fucking everything. So if he's not betting on this fight, you guys know what's up. Linz is off the steroids, is a bad guy. I agree. Fight goes a distance. I don't mind that as well. Zach Johnson saying, anyone on Bellator this week? I will. I don't know if I'll do a pre-recorded episode of Bellator this week, but I'll definitely do a live version of it maybe the day before the fight. So stick around if you guys want to see that. Hidden Treasure saying, I'm so over losing money on Rothwell. I agree. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. And I believe this fight kicks off the main card. Let me just confirm that real quick. Yep, this fight kicks off the main card. There's been a lot of shuffling going on considering that we just got the main event announcement today. But this fight, a great fight of Angela Hill versus Amanda Ribas. Let me just wet my beak real quick before we get into the main card here. And also remind you guys, please do hit that like. Greatly appreciated. We're at 53 likes with 141 people watching. I don't like that ratio. I can hear Alfred barking in the other room. All right. Angela Hill coming in as a plus 145 dog to Amanda Ribas, minus 165. Amanda Ribas's bubble got bursted last time by the woman who's in the main event, Marina Rodriguez. And if you guys remember, that was one of my bright moments earlier on in 2021. I really shit the bed in my first 2 months of betting this year, but my one shining moment was Rodriguez to win that fight via knockout, plus 1350 prop on that. And luckily it came through. You know, I don't think it was a lucky punch. I don't think it was a fluke. I think it was perfectly set up. It was a great counter punch. And that was Rodriguez's way to win the fight. And that's exactly what she did. I think Amanda Ribas has pulled the wool over most people's eyes into thinking that she's some great striker because she was putting on a great performance against Mackenzie Dern on the feet. I still believe that she is average to slightly below average striker. And I think that once she starts fighting more strikers, like legitimate strikers, it's going to start to get exposed. And just as we saw against Marina Rodriguez, it got exposed. And I think it's going to get exposed once again this weekend against Angela Hill. I think Hill has improving takedown defense. And I think even her get-up game is getting better too. I think Amanda Ribas will struggle to get her down. And not only that, I think she'll struggle to keep her down. I think that Angela Hill is a much better striker in this matchup. And people want to call her pillow fisted. They clearly haven't been watching the last couple of fights where she's clearly hurting, rocking, and dropping some of these women, not to mention recording a knockdown against Claudia Gadelha early in that fight. She hurt Ashley Yoder a bunch of times. Even Michelle Waterson, she was able to lump her up a bunch, even though she ended up losing that fight. She's nasty on the feet and she's getting better fight by fight. And I think that she's only getting stronger and more confident in her strikes as she gets through her career. Now she's 36 years old, so she's really going to have to turn it on. But I think that this is a great fight for her to go out there and actually get a solid win. I think that she can actually even get a finish in this fight. I'm not going to go out here and be like, okay, Ribas is a super chinny fighter. I think that, I think she has some issues in terms of how she reacts to getting hit. You can fool people by looking like an amazing striker against Mackenzie Dern before Mackenzie Dern started working with Jason Perillo. You can fool people into thinking that you're a great fighter by beating girls like Randa Marcos or taking down Paige Van Zandt almost immediately once that fight started and submitting her. But once you start finding fighters that you're going to struggle to, drag the fight into your realm, which is whether it's the ground game like she did against Marcos and Paige Van Zandt, or keeping the fight on the feet to, get away from the jiu-jitsu of Mackenzie Dern, you're going to look like a great fighter. Of course, you're going to look like a great prospect. But then once you start fighting true fighters that push you in those instances, you're going to run into some trouble. And I think she's going to run into some trouble here with Angela Hill. I think that this is a great underdog spot for Angela Hill. And I think it's another good spot for her to potentially go out there and get the knockout finish, like I said. Last time I looked at the odds for the props on this, it was plus 700 for Hill to get the knockout. Now it's plus 650. So people are starting to get privy to it. Even if you want to look at the under 2.5, plus 180 is not too bad of a spot, considering that if Ribas is successful in getting this fight to the ground, she might be able to find a submission, but I'm not counting on it. I do think that Angela Hill will be successful in terms of moving well, staying on the feet, staying away from the clinches and the takedown possibilities from Ribas, and then just beating her up on the feet. I don't think it's going to look pretty. I do think that Angela Hill will absolutely make her look like an amateur on the feet, and I think people will start to realize that Ribas has been fooling them the entire time into thinking that she's a legitimate striker. A lot of people just pull it from that Mackenzie Dern fight, and I just do not understand it. Dern is a work in progress on the feet. She didn't even work legitimately closely with Jason Perillo as much as she is now when she fought Ribas back in the day. So I like Hill here. I think she's one of the better underdogs on the card, and I think she makes it relatively easy by finishing Amanda Ribas probably in the second or third round of this fight. Let's see what the chat is saying here. Zach Johnson likes him some Hill. I'm right there with you. Some solution is on Ribas. It seems like since you've gotten into the chat, I've pretty much disagreed with all the ones that you're saying. Being honest, and R for Ribas. R Ribas. Noah's saying this one scares the shit out of me. Seems like a trap. Bo Jackson saying this one's a pass for him. Noah saying he can see Ribas getting the sub. Zach Johnson saying Hill looks good lately. I agree. Jay Tucker, I still have Ribas even though she lost last fight. I think this is going to look worse, man. She had success in that first round with Rodriguez with getting her down, but I think she's going to struggle here with Hill. Noah saying Maria knocked her twice hard to call it luck. I agree. I've heard some people throughout this week saying it was a fluke and saying it was luck. I absolutely disagree. George saying my gut says Hill keeps it standing and wins, but I don't have the balls to bet on it. Maybe I do. Zach Johnson saying she got robbed against Waterson. You could make that assumption. The funny thing I found about that fight, though, if you guys go back and watch that round 5, or at least the last minute of that round 5, you hear Michelle Waterson start doing her hias, like channeling her inner Holly Holm, because she's like screaming as she's throwing all of her shots. And I truly believe that's what swayed 2 of those judges who ended up scoring that round for Michelle Waterson. But yeah, that was a close fight. Dirty Regs 22. Only time she looked good to me was when she demolished Cyphers. You are very tough to impress, then, my guy. No, so I don't know about robbery, but it could have gone either way for sure. Yeah. Dirty Reg 22. I can agree with Zach. So yeah, she has looked pretty good. I see your point. I forgot that. Robot Chicken Wings, my man Locke, no Amanda Sims are here. Let's go. Am I an Amanda Simp? Maybe, possibly, but I don't think she wins this fight. Dirty Reg saying some of her wins have been over low level opposition to me. Just furthermore to that, Angela Hill has definitely fought the tougher competition, and probably has the better wins. Let's be honest. Maybe not in her last 5, but throughout her career. Wael Al Gabani Hill going to dominate here. I think we're going to see her wrestle and take this fight down. She does not want to take this fight down. Ribas is a very good jiu-jitsu player. I'd be very surprised if we see Angela Hill actually go for takedowns here. I don't know where you guys are getting the idea that Hill should grapple here. That's not the path she should take. She should look to outstrike and possibly knock out Ribas on the feet. George is saying third round TKO for Hill is my fun bet of the week. I like it. I like it. Big Bird, Hill has sneaky power. She's hurt all of her last couple of opponents. I think Hill pieces her all day on the feet. And give me them dog odds right there. What you dude? Zach Johnson, I always parlay a few dogs. I'll toss Hill into that mix. Nick West, Angie knows she can rush Ribas if she stays low to avoid takedowns and throws lots. Ribas will crumble if we get overkill of recent form. I agree. It's not about the pick. It's about how you play the bet. Yanni the Greek said that. All right. Love me some Yanni, but I don't always agree with the guy. Underdog value on Hill is nice. Yep. Shout out to my guy, Marcus Williams. Mike Demopoulos is saying, isn't the best bet for Angela Hill is she loses by decision? I think Angela Hill could absolutely knock her out. I think the bet. Personally, I think the only way Amanda Ribas wins this fight is if she gets the submission. If she gets the fight to the ground long enough, I think a submission will open itself up. But I think Hill is good enough to get back to her feet or at least shuck off the takedowns and then get her striking going. I think she wins. She has more paths of victory, in my opinion. JSG saying, I'm just a Ribas sim. Stats don't matter. Mixed Partial Art Farts saying, these girls both sucks. Yeah. Maybe a little bit of a casual stopping by. Mike Demopoulos, even versus Euro, she allowed late round takedowns that could have swayed the judges. Sonny G saying, why is Hill the dog? George, fuck it. I'll play both Hill and Hill TKO prop. Ribas can't take a punch. Dang, all late. Let's start all over from the top. That luckily, Justin Villegas, you can actually rewind and watch it from the beginning, even on demand. Sage Lawrence in the chat, the cards where few see opportunities exactly where my boy Locke sweeps the board. Let's fucking go. Hill by decision is going to happen. Could happen, but I do think the KO prop is very live here. All right, let's move on to the next fight because we got a couple other good dog spots to talk about. Unfortunately, I don't think that Carlos Diego Ferreira is the dog spot here. We got minus 170 on Gregor Gillespie, plus 150 on Carlos Diego Ferreira. I will say this fight slightly worries me a little bit more for Gregor than when he was originally scheduled to fight Brad Riddell a couple months ago. Now, with Riddell, he had a lot of the striking to worry about. Obviously, he got knocked out by Kevin Lee in his last fight, so everybody's going to be worried about that. But the way Gregor Gillespie wins this fight is by taking fights to the ground and grinding on his opponents, and that's taking Diego Ferreira into his black belt realm, and that gives me a little cause for concern, but I'm confident that Gregor should be able to stay out of the big submission attempts from Carlos here. You know, Gregor Gillespie is definitely one of the best wrestling jiu-jitsu players that we have out there, and he does really good with his top pressure, does a good job with flowing with his opponents, transitioning, does a good job with taking the back, getting the ground and pound in, flattening out his opponents, getting his ground and pound in, getting his submission in, whatever the hell it is. He is a finisher of a grappler. He's not a lay-in prayer at all, and it's weird that some people did have that perception of him earlier on in his career, but the guy just gets finishes, always going for it. And the guy looks in ridiculously good shape if you guys are able to check out his IG for sure. But in terms of stylistically, how these guys match up, Gregor's striking game is getting better every single time. He was busting up Kevin Lee's face with that jab up until he got his head knocked into the seventh row. But, that was a great learning experience for him. I like what we've been hearing from him in terms of, how he accepted that loss, how we just, he said he would rather have lost that way than gotten grapple fucked for 15 minutes because that, getting your lights turned off, you can't really do much about that. Whereas getting grapple fucked, you have the ability to still stay in that fight. So I didn't mind that type of approach from him with his mental state. But in this fight, Carlos Diego Ferreira didn't look the greatest in the Dariush fight. And that was a fight that I was backing Diego Ferreira in. That's a fight that I thought he was going to be able to finally get the better of Dariush. But Dariush did a good job of chain wrestling, which I think is the big point here that we need to take in this Gregor Gillespie fight. I think Gillespie is probably the best train wrestler that we currently have in the UFC. And you see it in certain moments with the Benoit Dariush fight, right? You see Dariush go for a double leg he goes for a double leg. Diego Ferreira shucks that off, but Dariush doesn't give up on it. He ends up changing it into an outside trip, and he's able to get top position. That's Gregor Gillespie shit. That's what Gregor does. He'll push you up against the cage. He'll go for a double leg. If it doesn't work, he'll go for a single leg. If that doesn't work, he looks for a trip. Like, the guy is nonstop with what he brings to the table, and he has great cardio to back that up, which is why I'm even more confident in him to be able to go out and implement that game. Now, Carlos, going into that Dariush fight, was on a great winning streak. He was able to get some knockouts, able to get some submission over Pettis, and obviously some decision victories over a very highly touted Mirbek Taisimov, somebody that was very high in that fight too. By just pressuring these guys, stays in their face, leg kicks, nonstop combinations, maybe not technically the best striking out there, but just staying in your face and making it uncomfortable. That's how he was beating those guys. But I find that hard to believe that he's going to be able to do the same thing here against Gregor, who should be threatening him with takedowns, changing levels, utilizing that jab that he seems to have developed over the last couple of fights, and then eventually changing levels and getting takedowns. So I do think that Gregor is a good spot here. I think he's a safe spot here. Again, it hurts me to say that against a guy like Carlos Diego Ferreira, but I just don't think that this is a good stylistic matchup for Ferreira. And everything we needed to see as to why Gregor is going to be successful is from that Dariush fight. Dariush, high-level black belt. He was able to control Diego Ferreira in certain spots on the ground, obviously secure the takedowns. But I think that Gregor is that good of a jiu-jitsu player. I think he is obviously probably the best wrestler in the UFC right now. Maybe Islam Makhachev has something to say about that, and obviously Khabib has hung up the gloves right now. But I think he showcases it once more, and I think we see a successful return for Mr. Gregor the Gift Gillespie. All right, let's see what the chat is saying here so then we can move. Looking Tube is saying that punch from Marino was really hard and explosive. I don't see Angela Hill throwing the same punch, smaller girl. It's not just one punch. It's going to be a combination of strikes. Cam G, no, they don't suck. Angela has gone way better. She used to be useless. I agree. Some solution on Diego Ferreira. I got Gillespie. Hill got y'all fooled. I disagree. Zach Johnson, I like fight does not go to distance. I'm assuming that you mean that for this Gregor fight. I think it goes to a decision. I think we see Gillespie grind him out. I think Ferreira's jiu-jitsu game is good enough that he'll be able to stay away from the big power of Gillespie on the ground, so he won't get TKO'd. And then obviously I think his jiu-jitsu game is good enough that he won't get submitted here by Gillespie either. Unless Ferreira's gas tank falls off a cliff in that second and third round. Dirty Reg saying, not handing just my opinion. I'm completely okay with opinions. I don't take anything seriously or offensive unless it's completely over the line. And you have not touched that line, my friend. Dylan Sweet, lock on a freebie Harris. I like Harris. I think he wins. Austin Midah is saying, I won't throw in parlay, but I will play for a head up sub prop. Okay. The hidden treasure. I like Gregor. I think he'll be just good enough to stay on top and be in dominant positions according to the judges. I agree. Jay Tucker has Gillespie. I'm with you. Then Sweet says Locke loves Gillespie. The odds of being Lock of the night are minus 120. You will find out if you are on the Patreon. That's all I'm going to say. Patreon link is in the description below. $5 a month. That's all I ask. George is saying, I like the opposite, Zach. I think Ferreira would not mind being on his back, and Gregor would not be able to finish him from the top. Yeah, I think it's going to be a stalemate on the ground, but it's going to be Gregor with being in the more dominant positions, and he should grind out a decision victory here. Yep. Just like martial arts fan. Jay Tucker, a fight could hit decision. I agree. Yep, I see neither guy getting finished. If anybody gets finished, I think it will be Gillespie. But I do think he is the fighter that should be favored in this fight. Justin Villegas is saying Gregor Gillespie by submission. That Kevin Lee kick was super late in the second round. That was actually in the first round. Just happens sometimes. That's that Wiley Grow 21 straight and KO by slap with the toes. Yeah, that was bad. Big Bird PH going heavy on Gregor. Don't see him getting submitted. I agree. Gregor needs to stay out of full guard and his striking is serviceable to hold his own. I agree. Diego Ferreira with the dubs. Gregor is not the same as Dariush. I disagree. CDF got dominated by Dariush. Wrestling Gillespie will be safe. Yep. Capper comparison picks. Gillespie, the only Division I national NCAA champ in the UFC. And you can definitely see why. No, Gregor really bad match for CDF. I agree. Gregor for finishes in a row before getting the TKO. He is a finisher. He is a finisher of a fighter, but I think that Ferreira is durable enough to survive. Big Bird saying, is Gregor going to be your lock of the night? Think the line going to get wider close to fight day? You'll find out on the Patreon if you're on the Patreon. Again, I hate being so secretive, my guys, but again, I gotta give the Patreon members some benefit for being on the Patreon. They already know what the lock of the night will be. I haven't played it yet, but they know what it will be. Gregor's best grappler in the UFC now that Khabib is retired. Again, it's either him or Islam Makhachev. Mixed martial arts saying there's a difference. MMA wrestling is different than collegiate wrestling. You'd be surprised how many NCAA wrestlers would truly feel and how some dudes like GSP didn't wrestle would be great at it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. But I think that Gregor is definitely one of the best guys to transition from collegiate wrestling to MMA wrestling and switch that, right? The perfect example of this was Rashad Evans against Phil Davis years ago. I saw that shit live in, I believe it was in Chicago. But Phil Davis, much more credentialed college wrestler, high school wrestler than Rashad Evans, but Rashad did a much better job of changing that to an MMA wrestling game, and we saw it. But I think that Gregor has been able to adapt it to such a good grappling MMA game that he should be fine. Bryce D saying CDF is super tough. I think it just grinds him out. I agree. JSG is saying, has Riddell been booked yet or rebooked yet? He has. If somebody in the chat could actually find out who it is, that would be great. I'm just going to sift through the comments here so I can get to the live. Bout Better is saying, this is a low investment and risk car, more passes than plays. I agree. I'm saying Gregor isn't good in a firefight yet. Carlos is all about that. I don't think that Gregor will allow him to get into that firefight. Judges suck lately and can't be trusted. Talk about the truth. Dirty Rag, you're right to be on Gregor. He gets massive takedowns. Yes. Bryce D, this fight will play out like Benoit versus CDF, but Gregor will do a better job holding him down and not standing with him. Yep. Tajik Bay, just $5. Get that picture and approved by me, the GOAT. Thank you, Tajik. That's my guy right there. The biggest troll on MMA Twitter, but the nicest and most positive troll out there. Shout out to my guy, Tajik Bay. Nick West saying all your units on Gregor. Benoit's a scrapper. I know a real fighter when I see one. Gregor has good collegiate wrestling fundamentals, but that doesn't always translate into an MMA fight. There's college wrestlers, and then there's MMA wrestlers again. We've gone over this, so I'm not going to keep pounding on that drum. Zach A, the best pound-for-pound NCAA wrestler, has to go to MMA is Iowa heavyweight Hugh. Yeah, thank you, Zach A. Way to tee me up there, buddy. Bryce G, Greg, he's proven in MMA. I agree. Dober, thank you. Free UFC picks, George, as well. Riddell versus Dober. I think that's a great fight. A funner fight, to be honest. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. Otherwise, we're going to be here all freaking night. We got Maurice Greene going up against Marcos Rogerio de Lima and talk about a dumpster fire fight. The funny thing is, yesterday I thought that this fight was like the second or third fight of the night, and Ben Rothwell versus Philipe was going to be the co-main event. Nope. They spring it on us, and they totally flip it around. They put this fight on the main card because we always need some sloppy heavyweights to go at it. So I'm on the Marcos Rogerio de Lima side here. Not with the utmost confidence. You're not going to catch me laying minus 190 on the guy. Obviously, his path to victory is probably round one. I think he succeeds in achieving that round one finish. Plus 150 is what the prop is. Big leg kicks, big power in his hands. I think he's going to be able to catch Greene. I think he's going to have to set it up with his leg kicks first and foremost. And if he's able to do that, I think that it's really going to work on Maurice Greene in terms of slowing him down, maybe dropping him, and then eventually following up with some ground and pound. Now, Maurice Greene obviously been training over there at Jackson Wink MMA over the last couple fights. He's gone 1-1. Even his win over Gian Vellante wasn't the most thrilling victory. They call it a submission victory for Maurice Greene, but I'm going to call it a victory via TKO for Maurice Greene due to exhaustion, because that's why Gian Vellante tapped that night. And then obviously that follows up Maurice Greene with a knockout loss to Greg Hardy. Very unfortunate loss for him there, but he was a plus 300 dog in that fight. So that just lets you know everything you need to know about that. I don't think that Greene is a good fighter. I think he has an underrated jiu-jitsu game, but I don't think that it's going to be something that he catches De Lima in something. He could catch De Lima the further this fight goes if it does exit the first round and we do see the second or third round. And I think that Greene could pull off that submission, if De Lima starts sucking wind or if he gets tired like he did in the Romanov fight and gave up that forearm choke. But Romanov is a far cry from Maurice Greene. De Lima, he's a decent fighter for one round, but after that, it falls off a cliff very, very heavily. He's able to knock out Ben Sisoli very impressively. The Adam Wizardchik fight was an interesting one because Wizardchik, not that great of a fighter. So that was like one of the few decision victories we've ever seen on De Lima's record. And even if you guys remember De Lima from back in the day, I believe he used to fight at 185, but definitely used to fight at 205. And now just does not give a fuck about diet. Coming in pretty much at the heavyweight limit. He's a thick boy for sure. Comes into the cage with a lot of power and very little cardio. This is pretty much round one De Lima or round two or round three Maurice Greene, but I do favor De Lima ever so slightly here, but not with much confidence. So I'm going to take De Lima round one, ground and pound. I'm not going to stick on this fight too much. Rib Lemon saying, did anybody lose money on Reyes? I didn't. Shout out to Yuri Prohaska for helping me cash a big parlay. AG saying, sup, Lock, you're definitely fighting the good fight. Wrestling kills jiu-jitsu, bro. Gregor wins. I'm right there with you. Nick West letting us know that this is bump fight number 2. I agree. Free UFC bet saying, I just want to hammer Marcos and parlays, but I can't push the button so far. Lay it down for us, Goat. Don't touch this fight. Do not touch this fight. If this was lock of the night of 2020, I'd be hammering that under 1.5, but I'm not trusting my money with low-level heavyweights anymore. Mixed partial farts saying, how's Rogerio de Lima still in the UFC? He's just changing wins and losses until he loses 2 fights in a row. He's probably sticking around. No, I was saying, if I remember correctly, Greene was losing a heavyweight to Vellante before catching the weird ass sub. I think that is correct. Big Bird PH with the $3.99 donation. Thank you, my brothers. Shout out to the super chat, holding it down. Super chats are always appreciated. Never expected, never mandatory, but always appreciated. Definitely lets me know you guys are feeling my work. So thank you for that. KB Buller's retirement fund. I don't think he's in the UFC anymore, so he can go back to his office job or whatever he was doing. I love me some KB. I'm a big fan of the dude. For anybody that steps in the cage to do what they do. And obviously, being an Indo-Canadian like myself, it was nice to see one of those guys in the UFC, but we just can't get it done. We just don't have anybody good enough to get a title. I know Arjun Buller is supposed to be fighting for the one championship title next week against Brandon Vera. Hopefully he can bring that shit home. But in the UFC, it's just been absolute no-go. Arlen M is saying this is a fight to determine who belongs in the UFC less. I agree. Justin Villegas. I'm thinking Lima, but that Togo party last night and the wine was flowing like the rivers of Asgard. Had me thinking maybe Greene wins now. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm not touching this fight. TJ Kelly, if you think Greene, okay, BJJ, then De Lima is the exact guy to get caught in something he always does. Yeah, I just can't trust Greene either. Nick West letting you guys know this Greene to Lima fight is worse than Rothwell versus Lins. I absolutely agree. Bryce saying that as though, how is it over that fight? I don't know. Maybe they're expecting more violence in this fight than they are the other fight. Free UFC bet picks. Great breakdown. Might just steer clear. Yeah, for sure. There's no need to bet on everything here. YBB official is saying I'm done experimenting with dogs. So yeah, mega pass right there. Jason Brown de Lima loves losing by sub, and Greene can sub low percentage, but don't be surprised. Yeah, that's why I'm not even touching this. Zach Johnson saying, why not try the sub prop here? I think it's plus 500 for Greene. But again, you're not getting that money from me. You're not getting that money from me. Mixed martial arts. What do you think about KB Bully getting stomped in the UFC? Brown boy. Yeah, it didn't help. I didn't like it. We just don't have any brown guys that can do it. Rib Lemons throwing some brownie points my way. Luckily, that you honestly have some of the more sound opinions. It's insane how many levels ahead you are from other predictors. I don't think I'm the best out there, but I do my best. I do my work. I do the grinding. I watch the tape, and check out the statistics, all that type of shit. That's the best I can do, and then give you guys what I think. All right. Let's move on to the next fight here. We don't need to spend too much time on this fight. We got about 3 or 4 more fights left. Next up, we got Neal Magny against Geoff Neal. Another very live underdog, in my opinion. I really like Neal Magny in this spot. And Geoff Neal is a guy that I've been a big fan of ever since coming into the UFC. But there are certain styles of matchups that just make things just a little bit too hard. And I think it's going to be that right here for Geoff Neal with Neal Magny. And that really sucks, especially with him coming off that super frustrating loss to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson last December. And Wonderboy Thompson, Neal Magny, these guys are guys that have, they don't have these crazy attributes that jump off the page to you, but they just put this grind and they just put this weird type of style together that's very hard to solve for some fighters. Neal Magny, I did back him ever so slightly against Michael Chiesa last time around. And yeah, I was pulling out my hair and I was just like, ooh, I'm never betting Neal Magny again. But luckily for us, he doesn't have to worry about getting grapple fucked here by Geoff Neal, as Geoff Neal is obviously more of a striker, needs his room to operate to really get his striking going. And that's exactly what Neal Magny does very well. He does not give you room to operate. He does not give you the space that you need to get your strikes off, which is why he was able to swarm Li Jingliang the way that he was, which is why he swarmed Anthony Rocco Martin the way that he did. And even the Robbie Lawler fight, right? That one was another one. He was a big favorite in that fight, but there was still the possibility that he could get clipped on the chin and get put out. But he did a good job of sticking to Robbie Lawler, not letting him get his game going, and just winning the Neal Magny way of things. Now, the times that we've seen Neal Magny get knocked out, it's because the fight or his opponents start chopping his legs down. And I believe Geoff Neal, being head coached by Saif Sayoud, he seems like a coach that would be able to pick up on something like that. And I'd be surprised if they don't try to chop the legs of Neal Magny here. If they don't, they're going to be in some trouble here. And Geoff Neal is more of a striker with his hands, I think. Obviously, he has some good head kicks on his record too, but not really a huge leg kicker. He really likes to get his striking going with his hands and kicks to the body and kicks to the head. But we'll see if he actually brings it down to the legs here, as usually that's the kryptonite to Neal Magny. If he doesn't, I think he's going to find it very hard to deal with the pace and pressure of Neal. Neal has that weird herky-jerky style with the striking where he just keeps throwing the jab out there, not letting you get comfortable, not letting you get in a place of comfort, and then he really gets his game going, whether it's the clinch fuck, whether it's taking you to the ground, whether it's, having that heavy whizzer on you and punching you with his other hand. He's just so good in those situations. He does such a good job of just nullifying what his opponent does and the type of striking and damage that's coming back his way. I think he has a relatively good chin, even though he has a couple knockout losses on his record. Like I said, most of those losses coming because his legs were getting chopped down. Santiago Ponzinibbio and Lorenz Larkin are the ones that come to mind. The other ones he's getting grapple fucked or submitted, like Michael Chiesa, Rafael Dos Anjos, Damian Maia. Every other fight he's winning. So what Geoff Neal brings to the table here is obviously very good striking, but he needs that room to operate. He needs that room to let his game go, and Neil Magny's not going to give him that room or that space to breathe. So I think that was so Neil Magny go out there and drown him and just get that Neil Magny type of game going. So I like Neil Magny by decision here, which is what I think around plus 245, plus 250, as I think we'll see him go out there and just put it on Neil. I don't think he'll finish him. I don't think he'll sub him. I don't think he'll knock him out. I think he'll just grind on him and rack up at least 2 rounds here. We don't have to worry about him getting clinch fucked. That's not Geoff Neal's game. And I think that this is a perfect matchup for Neil Magny to win. Now, Geoff Neal seemed unstoppable coming into the UFC, right? But let's just go back and watch his fights before the UFC. Obviously, he's made a ton of improvements, so we can't overlook that aspect of this of Neil Magny's or Geoff Neal's game. But Kevin Holland beat him back in the day. You know what I mean? Wonderboy Thompson just beat him, but again, Thompson has his style of his own, so it's very tough to truly say that Neil Magny will be able to implement a similar style. But I do think that we'll see vintage Magny here, and it's weird to me that Neil Magny is only 33 years old. It seems like he's been in the UFC forever, but he did make his debut back in 2012. Right after the Ultimate Fighter, and he's been doing some good work since then. Gotten a couple main event slots, won a couple of them, really gotten close to getting a title shot, but never really got over the hump. But I think that this is a good spot for him to go out there and get another victory under his belt in a stylistically very favorable matchup for him. So yeah, I like me some Neil Magny here, and I'm picking him to spring the upset. Let's see what the chat is saying here. Dirty Rex saying I'm better than the MMA guru. There's so many gurus out there. I don't know who you're talking about, but I appreciate it. Shout out to the gurus. It's funny that all of them call themselves gurus, but nobody's Indian, right? Isn't that like cultural appropriation? I'm not. Trust me, I'm not one of those SJWs. I'm not trying to make a stink about it, but I just find it hilarious. Free UFC bets has been hammering at Angie Hill since plus 190. I like it. Sam97 saying tons of dogs in the cash on Saturday. I absolutely agree. This is not a card that you want to be parlaying. I'm telling you, there are going to be some very cheeky spots here, and I think they're going to see a ton of upsets. Jared Garrett, social anxiety, saying Magny is the same height and relatively same reach as me, but 90 pounds less. That's Neil Magny. That's the gazelle for you guys. Big Bird, I know that Wonderboy fight is an anomaly, but I can't trust him versus Neal. I could see this being a very boring fight against Cage. Yeah, that's where Neil Magny thrives. Justin Villegas, Neil Magny frame, add more weight. He doesn't have power punching or kicks, not strong enough for grapple, better, strong fighter. I just don't see him moving up in the division. I think he would be better off, at 185, but those guys are huge too, right? Let's not overlook that fact. But I like his style for what it is. Not crazy. Geoff Neal still has to work at the Texas Roadhouse. That's how you know the UFC fighter pay is fucked. Didn't he leave it a couple fights ago? I swear he left his job a couple fights ago. Dirty Reg 22 letting you guys know if you don't grapple like Kiesa, Magny will give you problems. And we know damn sure Geoff Neal doesn't do that. Mixed partial farts. Geoff Neal probably too fast and powerful in the stand-up, but that reach is always a factor. Again, I think Neal is going to be either all the way out or all the way in. But I like me some Neil Magny here. Justin is saying he needs more weight. Got to get him a thick crowd. Yeah, I'm not going to continue with that one, but I get where you're going. George saying two guys I don't like at all, coming off of underwhelming performances. I don't really agree that the forward pressure would favor Magny. Neal struggles with distance fighters, so it might work to his advantage. Dirty Reg is saying MMA prediction guru is cool. Yeah, that's my guy. We used to do the odd show together. That is my dude. Why you're listening, as long as you're wrong about Greene, I'm making 10K. Good luck, brother. Again, no real confidence on Lima, so I'm begging for your parlay. I'll share with you guys a crazy parlay that I have that might be hitting this weekend as soon as I wrap up this show. So if you guys stick on the outside or on the back end of this, I'll show you guys a crazy parlay that I have. Hopefully, cashes this weekend and makes you boy rich. Noah saying breaking news, lock the nights. Racist hates white girls. I don't know much about the. I know they call him Beanie Guru because he's always wearing a beanie or something. I don't know much about him. He doesn't seem to be too involved with the rest of the community, but it is what it is. Nick was saying I'm sweeping this fucking card, either straight W's or the reverse sweep, but I'm sweeping. Robot Chicken Wings Magny is good at what he does. Geoff might get out grappled. Yeah, that could. Geoff Neal has some good takedown defense. I'll give him that. I believe Bilal Muhammad went 0 of 6 on takedown attempts or 0 of 7. But I think that Neal has a different type of grind on him that most fighters don't. Not to mention that crazy cardio and pace. And think he can put that exactly on Geoff Neal here. Justin Villegas, nothing wrong with underdogs. Just got to ask what extra topping you want on your underdogs. I like it. Neal Magny by decision. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. We got co-main event put together relatively quickly. Donald Cerrone going up against Alex Morono. Cowboy Cerrone obviously supposed to be fighting Diego Sanchez tonight or this weekend, but Sanchez has that huge shit coming out with the UFC. Obviously gets released quickly thereafter. Now Cowboy draws Alex Morono. Alex Morono actually has 2 of his teammates fighting on this card as well. He has Carlos Diego Ferreira as well as the guy in the last fight, Geoff Neal. Both guys out of, or all 3 guys out of Fortis MMA, head coached by Saif Saud. I think it was a no-brainer for him to step in on short notice here against Cowboy, given that his teammates are already fighting on the card. I don't know if this is the fight that he wanted to take on short notice, though, right? Cowboy hasn't had the greatest run as of late. Obviously, 0-4-1 in his last 5 fights. If that point wasn't taken away by Nico Price in the first round of their fight, he would have lost that fight as well. Would have been a 5-fight losing streak for Donald Cowboy Cerrone. It's not a good look. But I think stylistically, this is a great fight for Cowboy. I actually want to see if the line has moved much since I actually made this graphic. We have Cowboy at minus 130 now. So the money is coming in on Alex Morono, and I'm kind of stunned, to be honest. Cowboy, again, not on the greatest run, so this isn't the best form that you really want to catch him in, but I do think that this is a bad stylistic matchup for Morono. Morono, black belt in jiu-jitsu, but never seems to use it, and he really only started going for takedowns 2 fights ago against Reese McKee. Since then, he went 1 of 5 on takedowns against Anthony Pettis, got the back of Pettis early in their fight and wasn't able to submit him, and then when the fight was on the feet, Pettis was the quicker one to the punch, which is why he was able to go out there and outstrike Alex Morono. Morono trusts his hands a little bit too much and thinks he has enough power in his hands to go out there and knock out all of his opponents, but I think he truly struggles to be the more technical and faster striker when he's going up against guys like Anthony Pettis and obviously here against Cowboy Cerrone. I think Cowboy is absolutely going to have him covered everywhere this fight goes. I think Cowboy is good enough on the ground that even if this fight does hit the ground, Morono will struggle to find the submission. And I think the more it stays on the feet, that Cowboy will go out there and piece him up. And it might give us one of those spectacular Cowboy Cerrone type knockouts, similar to that Rick Story one we got a couple of years back. Morono is a little bit slow and stiff on the feet. He just throws with a ton of power because he doesn't really care about getting taken down because he has a black belt to back up his game. But that's not the greatest type of approach that you want to be taking. Not to mention taking this fight on short notice. Not a good look for Morono. The one knock on Cowboy's game used to be that he's a very slow starter, right? A lot of people used to go out there and just try to get him out of there ASAP. Gaethje was successful with it. Conor was successful with it. Pettis, obviously, that went to a full decision. Even Nico Price attempted to do it in their fight, just rushing him right off the bat, hitting him with these big elbows in the clinch, and it didn't really seem to phase Cowboy too much. Cowboy was able to still move forward and keep his game going. Obviously, ended up, I thought he lost the first 2 rounds and won the 3rd round. But I think he has enough chops to go out there and beat a guy like Morono, who I just don't think is that great of a fighter. So I'm going to lean with Cowboy here. I'm going to take him to win by decision. In terms of a bet, on my pre-recorded episode that you guys will see after I finish up this live stream, I picked Cowboy. I said that I recorded that breakdown when we didn't have the odds, and I said if his line was between minus 150 and plus 100, that it was an auto bet for Donald Cowboy. But Again, I'm a little bit skeptical. One thing I will note, though, is Cowboy did train at Syndicate MMA for this fight. Normally, you guys know that he's just comfortable chilling on the couch down there at the BMF ranch and just getting to work in with his own guys. But now he's up there with John Wood, getting good time in with Joe Schilling and all those other guys that are up there at Syndicate MMA. So you got to believe that he's starting to take it seriously so that he can start winning some fights and really end this last chapter of his career on a high note. So I like Cowboy here. I know he's 38 years old, but I think he should go out there and piece up Hirono on the feet and win this fight via decision. Let's see what the chat is saying. Get on Morono now. Wow, interesting. It's no longer a Rivers line. Morono wins for show. Damn. They trying to give Cowboy a win. Yep. Just as they tried doing with Pettis and it worked out. Look at Cowboy's last 5. Yeah. The guy's been, but look at the fighters he's fighting, right? Fucking Connor, Pettis. Again, that loss doesn't look that great anymore. Gaethje and Ferguson, not too bad. Justin Villegas is saying Cerrone will finally get a win, just seeing that Pettis by decision, Morono just going to lay that chin down and take him down. They're probably not a lot. Difference in competition too. Look at who Cowboy fought it, right? Exactly. Thank you, Mixed. Morono isn't training. He's cutting weight. The bookies messed up the line. Yeah, you're right. Morono wasn't getting ready for a fight at all. Cowboy was getting ready for a fight. So he's in full training camp form. Steve Sparks saying fade Fortis parlay plus 625. Yeah, Cowboy, Gregor, and Magny. Not too bad. And I'm a big Fortis guy, so it's kind of weird for me to see to be on not even one of the 3 Fortis guys. Cerrone has underrated ground game. I saw him submit RDA on Chiosan and Show. Yeah, he is a very good jiu-jitsu player. George is saying, I think Cerrone takes kind of a massive Morono hater. Still can't pull the trigger. I agree. Nick West, Pettis is washed and McKee sucks. Yes, he does suck. Cowboy will be able to pick Morono apart. He's way too hittable for Cowboy style. Right there with you. Brad Anthony saying Cowboy arguably won 2 rounds against Nico and Pettis. Those are close fights. I thought he won just the last round in the Nico fight. I don't recall how I scored the Pettis fight. Sam 97, Cerrone training like a madman. He is motivated and he has money for expensive training camps and diet. Yep. Nick West, if he gets a takedown, Cowboy will sub him from the bottom with a vintage Cowboy triangle. I'd be surprised if Cowboy actually pulls off the submission here. Damn, good pointing here by Jason Brown. Sucks it's not Cowboy versus Condit. I really hope this isn't down the swan song. He just a better send off. Yeah, Condit versus Cowboy would have been a crazy good fight. All right. Saeed Field Mountaineer saying, Diego in an interview today, I'm afraid for my life. UFC might kill me by faking a car accident or overdose. That is weird as fuck. God damn, it's so tough to say or see that with Diego Sanchez. All right, let's move on to the main event here. It's what you guys are all here for, right? Michelle Waterson versus Marina Rodriguez. Is that not why you guys are here? No? So we got minus 175 on Marina Rodriguez and plus 145 on Michelle Waterson. Let's see if that line has moved since the last time I spoke about this. Holy fuck, it has. Minus 220 on Marina Rodriguez, now plus 180 on Michelle Waterson. You guys might be forcing my hand here on Michelle Waterson. So I am picking Michelle Waterson to win this fight. Her inside the distance is plus 650. That is bunkers. All right, let me break this down for you guys because I'm sure I'll have a couple people in the chat here calling me crazy for picking Waterson. But let's start off with the Rodriguez side, right? Or Rodriguez. Obviously, I'm a big Rodriguez believer, which is why I backed her against Amanda Ribas last time around, getting the TKO win in the second round. But Her flaws still continue to show, which is her takedown defense, her ability to not, or her inability to get back to her feet, and that's plagued her throughout her career. Not to mention seemingly having cardio issues late in fights, where she's giving up the last round to Carla Esparza to Cynthia Calvillo. And even though she's only technically won or lost only one fight in her career, she still shows a lot of deficiencies in her fights. Even the draw that she went to with Randa Marcos, it's takedown or lack of takedown defense, and then inability to get back to her feet. The most underrated aspect of Michelle Waterson's game is her wrestling. She is a good wrestler. She has landed at least one takedown in 8 out of her 10 UFC fights. And I think she has even better jiu-jitsu. That's another aspect that people kind of overlook in Michelle Waterson's game. I'm going to give you guys the exact number here, but I believe 8 out of her 10 victories have come via submission. Yes, 8 out of 10 of her victories, or sorry, 9 out of her 18 victories have come via submission. And I truly think that Michelle Waterson is the second best jiu-jitsu player that Marina Rodriguez has gone up against inside the UFC. Randa Marcos, I don't think she's that great with the jiu-jitsu. Jessica Aguilera obviously was way past her prime when she had that fight. Teacher Torres is mainly a buzzsaw fighter on the feet. Cynthia Calvillo is the one fighter that I believe has better jiu-jitsu than Michelle Waterson. Carla Esparza, great wrestler, but not the greatest jiu-jitsu game. And then Amanda Ribas, a decent jiu-jitsu game, but I don't think I think it's slightly overrated, to be honest. And then Michelle Waterson, I think it definitely has some solid jiu-jitsu here. I think another aspect of this fight that a lot of people are harping on is that it's at 125 pounds, which should favor Marina Rodriguez and should favor her gas tank. I think that is absolutely incorrect. Sure, it might favor Rodriguez that she doesn't have to cut the weight to get down to that weight. And obviously, she has a 3-inch height and reach advantage in this fight. But just because you don't have to cut an extra 10 pounds doesn't mean that your cardio issues are magically going to disappear. This is a short notice 5-round fight for Rodriguez. First ever 5-round fight in the UFC for Marina Rodriguez. Where are we assuming that she's going to get this extra 2 rounds of cardio? Where's that going to come from? It's not going to happen. Yeah, I think Michelle Waterson, underrated wrestling game, like I said, and she has serviceable striking, and she's pretty good in the striking realm, where I think she'll be able to stay away from the big power of Rodriguez and get her own game going, which is going to be the wrestling. I'd be absolutely surprised if we don't see Waterson shoot for takedowns early in this fight, and I'd be surprised even more if she, 1, doesn't secure them, and 2, doesn't secure top position and get her own jiu-jitsu game going. This is a fight that I see Waterson mixing in her takedowns, dragging on the fight, making it a longer fight, and then wrapping up a submission in that 3rd or 4th round. I'm absolutely going to be taking a shot on the Waterson inside the distance at plus 650. Or I'm expecting to get even a better line to take Waterson by submission, which that line has yet to drop, but I'm expecting it to be in that plus 750, plus 800 range. And I think it's absolutely worth it here. Rodriguez is a great striker, don't get me wrong, but like, Michelle Waterson has not been finished by strikes. I just want to confirm that statistic, but she's gone a full 5 rounds with Ioana and Jacek, and I think that Marina Rodriguez is a poor women's version of Ioana, but I do think that Marina has slightly better one-punch power, but I don't know how long that's going to be transferable for. But in terms of getting finished, Michelle Waterson's gotten choked out by Rose Namajunas. She got choked out by a Harika Tiburcio. That was her last fight in Invicta. She got TKO'd by Alina Reed over 12 years ago now. So she got TKO'd once 12 years ago. I think her striking is good enough to hang with Rodriguez on the feet, but I'd be surprised if she doesn't shoot for takedowns within the first 2 minutes of this fight. That's where I think she gets the victory. She's going to get Rodriguez down. She's going to control her. She's going to get a jiu-jitsu game going, and that submission will eventually find itself. So I'm loving Miss Waterson. Surprised that the line is as wide as it is, and it continues to grow. But again, this seems to be a Ludovic Klein situation. You see a great knockout in her last fight, and all of a sudden she's this person that's going to be able to stuff takedowns, and she's going to be able to knock anybody out. And I think that's absolutely incorrect. I think Rodriguez has a solid ceiling, but in terms of stylistically how she matches up here with Waterson. I don't think it's a good matchup for her. And I think we'll see Waterson endure the striking, eventually get the fight to the ground, and then get going the way that she does. So I'm taking Waterson here. I'm taking her by third or fourth round submission, and I'll be playing both those props, the third round prop, fourth round prop, maybe even the fifth round prop if I need to, but I'll definitely be hitting that submission prop, as I think we'll see Waterson get the finish. If you guys are still confident in the Rodriguez side, though, I think instead of taking that chalky ass line on her straight, either take her inside the distance, which is plus 275, or even the under 4.5 rounds. So you cover a possible Michelle Waterson submission victory, and that's plus 210. So there you go. I got Michelle Waterson. I got her by sub the later that this fight goes. Call me crazy. I'm just about to refresh my comment section right now. I'm fully expecting to get torched out by everybody thinking that Marina Rodriguez will cruise here. I think I saw Rodriguez. All right, let's see what the chat is saying. Mixed partial frauds saying Rodriguez by KO or sub. I would be surprised if she wins by sub. DPS letting you guys know the facts. Waterson has the cardio. 9 minutes saying loving the line on Waterson. Has Marina even gone 5 rounds before? She has not. Not sure why odds are so wide. It's just because of her last finish. Sam97 spitting facts right there. This should be even odds. I'd even say Michelle Waterson probably needs to be the favorite. Danny Lopez, I just don't like how Waterson wears the damage, always bloodied up. True, but she's not getting knocked out. And the longer this fight goes, it definitely favors Michelle Waterson. Peter Sirlo saying lock dog of the night. Lock dog of the night play Waterson. Maybe. Justin Villegas saying MMALOTN night really is that wine in that flask you sipping. This fight is a pass for me. Same age, different mileage. Yeah, I agree. You're right. Martial arts fan is saying value on Waterson. I agree. Gene Rose saying hello from North Carolina, baby. Big ups to you, brother. I appreciate you stopping by for the stream, my guy. It's something stronger than wine, Justin. All right. To be honest, Waterson is just a step under the newer school of girls like Marina, are a step ahead, kind of like Joanna versus Carla Esparza. I don't know. 9 minutes, Marina early, then Waterson takes over with the 5-round experience. I agree. Tyson Jordan, great breakdown. Appreciate you for giving the dabs. Waterson may graduate to a dog of the night style play if that line keeps going. I think it's going to keep going, man. Justin Villegas, this is decision. Marina should win, but never know judges sometimes. Could be a coin flip. I'm just hoping Marina's side of the coin is thicker. I disagree, man. It doesn't seem like she has cardio past 2.5 rounds. What is she going to do for the rest of the fight? She's going to get taken down. If she doesn't finish Waterson early here, I think she's fucked. Rodriguez is going to fuck up Waterson. You're going to eat your words. We'll see. I hope to see you back in the chat, and I will gladly eat my words and come back on the stream just as I do every week, even when I get my shit wrong. But I feel very confident in Waterson in this spot. Good points on the short notice. I'm being the bigger fighter. Def got to wait for the skills. Yeah, that's a good point. We'll see if... well, then again, they are going up a weight class to have this fight. I will bet on Waterson after round 1 is at crazy plus odds. I agree. There could also be the opportunity that Waterson gets the takedown in the first round, and then we don't get as wide odds pre-fight or post round 1. MMA Kappa Michelle about to flex on Emrod later in the rounds. Yep, for sure. Waterson heading to the bare knuckle soon. I don't agree. Michelle has decent footwork. I think she could skip around the cage away from Marina till Marina tires. Yep. Or, like I said, super underrated wrestling game. I think it's going to work out for her. Waterson takes damage, though, and if Marina can find a range, Waterson can eat too many. But for how long? And if she doesn't knock her out, I think she's fucked. Dirty Reg saying, I can build nice parlay simply by disagreeing with your picks lock the night. Good luck. Good luck is all I can say. Waterson gets hit so much, terrible head movement. She just doesn't face bangers, but Marina is a banger. She will KO her, mark my words. All right, we'll see. It's not common to say about women's MMA, but Waterson has been in wars. I question her durability. Hill was busting her up last fight. Takedowns did bail her out. Same thing could happen. Yeah. She's never gone out cold, right? Again, only one KO loss 12 years ago on a record. Keep that in mind, guys. Fender Jazz with you on Waterson, World, COVID, Emerald in the main event, and Diego out of the UFC managed by a cult leader, end of days. Let's also remember, Marina Rodriguez, I believe, as of this recording, is still in Brazil. She was in Brazil last night. I believe she might still be in Brazil right now. And you're telling me she still has to cut the weight, didn't have a training camp, nothing like that. Michelle Waterson obviously didn't have a training camp either, but had way less time to had a little bit more time in terms of getting to where she needed to go and cut the weight as well. And again, she's not that big of a woman either, right? She used to fight at 105 pounds. So she's probably cutting little to no weight here to fight Marina Rodriguez. And 9 minutes, I'm playing Waterson straight. That might hedge with Marina KO. Not a bad idea. Dirty Reg saying doing a recap show for sure, Lock and Night. I do too many streams already, but you guys always know you guys can find me on my live stream here at 8 p.m. every Tuesday. Nash saying I can give Waterson the cardio and 5-round experience. Waterson last sub one was 2016, though. Can't really say she has a great jiu-jitsu fighter. Ultimately, I think it goes the distance. I think the cardio issues of Marina will allow the jiu-jitsu game of Michelle Waterson to shine later this fight goes. Alex Weber saying, why not Marina by a decision? She doesn't have cardio, man. Like after 2.5 rounds, she's going to be sucking wind. And you expect her to do that for 5 rounds? I don't think so. Wael Al Gadban, bro. If all these underdog hits, maybe I cannot retire. That's how Christians take your money, playing props, lay chalk sometimes. Oh, trust me, I don't mind laying the chalk. I like Waterson. Think wrestling is key. Yep. And cardio, I agree. Does size worry you at all? Not really. Like Carla Esparza is a pretty small girl too, and she was able to complete some takedowns on Rodriguez, albeit Carla Esparza is probably one of the better wrestlers in this division, credentially speaking. But I don't think Waterson will have issues in terms of getting the takedowns here. YBB official saying can't spell Waterson without a W. Waterson in 4. I like it. Wael saying just realized Rodriguez is also 34. Yeah, this easy Waterson win, I think. George, more confident on Hill than Waterson, but I like women's MMA dogs. Right there with you. Belt Better saying, appreciate the hospitality. I appreciate you stopping by, my guy. Anybody else think it's funny? Waterson, Hill, Kibas, and Marina all on the same card? Yeah, that is hilarious. Because this is Waterson versus Rodriguez, you're breaking down. I feel like there's another fight to go. I know, right? Martial arts saying Adashev and Harris parlay. I'm not really on that. Dirty Reg, or sorry, let me get Sam97 here first, saying Waterson is always an underdog. The disrespect. Yeah. Look at all those fights. Pretty much every single one of her fights, she's the underdog, and she's 3-2 in those last 5. Dirty Reg, I like your show though. I love talking debating MMA with good fans of the sport for sure. As long as people never cross that line of saying, oh, you're a dumbass, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, all that type of shit. I am okay with heated debates. I'm okay with legitimate discourse. Just don't be that asshole that's just like, oh, why the fuck are you're fat ass talking about all these dumbass fights and all that shit. Don't be that guy. And I'd be happy to debate fights with you every single fucking week. So I hope that you are now a Dirty Reg, Mr. 22. I hope you're going to be a regular here, and I look forward to your banter in the chat. What's the line on the fight doesn't go to decision? It is plus 180. Even the under 4.5 at plus 210, I think, is not too shabby either. The Gas is saying got in late, playing from the beginning, teleporting to 000. Appreciate you stopping by. Dogs with clear cardio and grappling advantage, hard to pass on 2-1, but can't trust. I'm right there. Stefan Peck, thoughts on Gregor Harris parlay? I don't mind it. I think they both win. MMA experts saying good work, bro. Got a collab soon. Hit me up. Sign those DMs. We'll see if we can work something out. MMALOTN on Twitter, my guy. That's the best way to get a hold of me. Free UFC bet picks. You the GOAT. Thanks for the hard work and the free help. But yo, MMA 365 tape index is a no-brainer, and the Patron is great value. It'll make you money and make your prep easier, guys. Yes, shout out to the tape index. Tape index is in the description below. It's an awesome spot. Trust me, you guys are really going to love it. And then obviously the Patreon is the best way to support your boy. All right, I got 2 more things I want to show you guys on the way out here, and then I'll wrap this thing up. The Ultimate Weigh-In Show this Friday, UFC Vegas 26. I have another new three guests for you guys. First and foremost, my boy Newsome MMA from MMA Play 365. He's going to be one of the guests. We have my guy Notorious Picks coming through as well. And then lastly, we're going to have my guy AJ Sholo. You guys know him from MMA Oddsbreaker. He's doing work for Daily Fan MMA, doing a ton of great work. So we have a great lineup for you guys. The Ultimate Weigh-In Show is going to be this Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern. I got a great lineup of guests for you guys. Trust me, you guys are going to want to hear from these guys. They are very, very sharp dudes, and very much respect them. Newsome was one of my first ever friends. This is Newsome right here. He was one of my first ever friends once I started this whole MMALOTN journey. We have a little bit of a business venture together, which is the Tape Index. My guy, Free UFC Bets, wants to talk about it real quick. I'll definitely let you guys know what it is. Notorious Picks, another guy that I was very, very close with when I first got into the game. And then AJ is the guy that's I only heard about him over the last year, but a very good guy. I will quickly bring up the Tape Index here for you guys. That is a good idea from my guy UFC Free Picks there. Let me just sign into my account. Oh, there we go. We got it up and ready to go. So let me just bring it up here for you guys. So the Tape Index is pretty much a quick way to help you guys study for your fights and gives you all the preparation that you need to make educated bets and all that type of stuff for yourself. It's $3.99 a month, super cheap. But what we do is we archive. So right now we only have 2 events up. I'll be sending through the PFL draft to Newsome tonight, and he should have that up first thing in the morning for you guys. But it's very helpful, right? We list every single fight for every fighter with just a direct link. And if it's in a big video, we tell you which timestamp to run right to, so you guys can get to get right to the fight. This is not every single fight. I lied. Sorry. This is every single fight that I could find on the internet through my dark web ways, through my through my special ways that I try to find fights, and it saves people a bunch of time. So if you're one of those people that likes to go out there and do your own research, do your own work, the MMA Tape Index is what you need. We do it for the entire card, right? So we got Archuleta versus Pettis. We got the guy fighting Rumble Johnson, all of his fights there that I could find. Patricky Pitbull, Peter Quilly, like literally everybody, all the way from the main event to the prelims. All you have to do is just click the fight, and there you go. The fight is up and ready to go. You don't have to scour the web. You don't have to be like, oh, let me go to Tapology, see when that fight was. Okay, let me click on this other one. No, it's all in order for you guys right here. And then not to mention, we have the Tapology page right there. And we also have their Instagram page ready for you guys right there as well. So very, very helpful. So that's the Bellator. We do Bellator, PFL, and UFC. I'm trying to get ahead of schedule. There's a lot on my plate at the moment, but I'm trying to get as ahead of schedule with the Tape Index as possible. Right now, we only have UFC and Bellator for this week. Again, PFL will be put up tomorrow morning, and then I'm going to look to get ahead with the UFC, the following UFC events. I believe UFC 262 is next week, so I'm hoping to get that up in the next day or two for you guys. So again, $3.99 Tape Index. Just Google it, MMA Play 365, and type in Tape Index, and that's what you guys will find. Lastly, I will show you guys that crazy good parlay that I have that could be cashing this weekend. Let me just see what the chat is saying real quick. Alex Weber saying, do you need any subscriptions for the Tape Index? It's only $3.99 a month. Super cheap. Very much worth it if you do your own research. Trust me, it's really good. Again, just Google search, or you know what? Why Google search? Let me just fucking drop the link in the description for you guys, so you guys can just go straight to it if you guys are interested in it. That is, and I put this together. I do the grunt work for this. Newsome owns the website. It was kind of our own brainchild. There you go. Link is in the comment section if you guys want to check out the Tape Index. All right. Secondly, I wanted to show you guys that parlay that I have. One more thing, Mixed Partial Farts saying, where else can I subscribe to you, bro, besides YouTube? Twitter, at MMALOTN on Twitter, at MMALOTN on Instagram. And if you don't mind chipping a little extra money, $5 a month on Patreon. The link is in the description below. You get a ton of free perks there, or not free, but you get great perks there. Not to mention a Discord community that we have, where we have a ton of guys that come through, and they share their own picks, not just on UFC, other sports, and then we obviously have some great banter on there as well. Free UFC bet picks is letting you guys know Tape Index is only $3.99 a month. Arlen M bought the Tape Index and used it for the first time this past weekend for Prohaska and Reyes. Helped me cash big. I love it. You guys should get it too. I'm not a paid rep. I will say this. I'm not going to tell you guys the exact numbers, but we are at the most Tape Index subscribers that we've ever been at. And we've had this thing on sale now since February of 2020. So it's starting to snowball. It's starting to get really, really big. So shout out to everybody on that as well. Rib Lemons is saying, hey, Lock, is 365 the best bookie? I'm looking to switch out of my bookie. Depends on where you're at. Depends on where you're at. Free UFC Bet Picks is saying, Patreon link too. It's in the link below. It's in the description below. If you're watching on YouTube, just go to the description and you'll find it there. All right. And yeah, the last thing I want to show you guys on the way out is this crazy parlay that I have. Is this the one? This is the one. Can you guys? Oh, I didn't even share my screen. God damn it. See if you guys can see that. Look at that. $150 to win 28K. Strickland hit. Chikadze hit. TJ Brown, gift of a decision, but it hit. Loma Lukbunmi hits. Philipe Kalaris hits. Cowboys Roney. Obviously, this is a push now because Sanchez is out. I got Hill. I got Magny. I got Daukaus. And then I just threw in Canelo for the hell of it. But yeah, if those 4 picks hit, I'm assuming the payout will be closer to 25 or 23 grand, based on the fact that Cowboys Roney will no longer be on that parlay. So talk about good times over here. If that shit hits, you guys might not be able to see me, or you guys might not see me next week. No, I'm playing. I'm always going to be here for you guys, no matter what. I hope you guys enjoy that parlay. But these multi-event parlays have been hitting for me, man. I think 2 out of the 3 that I've put out there have hit. I put them up on the Patreon as well. That one I put up on the Patreon. I'll be putting another one on the Patreon before the Bellator fights this weekend, as I feel like there's a couple Bellator spots that I can mix with UFC and also future UFC events. So hopefully we can start cashing some more of that. A couple questions, and I'm going to get out of here. George is saying, do you need a UFC Fight Pass subscription to watch the fights from Fight Pass? Yes. Fight Pass is definitely required. I know you're in Greece, so yeah, Fight Pass will definitely be useful. For people in the States, so you guys can't watch some of the fights on Fight Pass. You actually need ESPN Plus. So I actually have direct links to the ESPN Plus links as well, not to mention just the Fight Pass subscription. So yes, Fight Pass, definitely need it. This is just so it's super easy, because we all know if you've used Fight Pass long enough, their search system even sucks too, right? If you type in John Jones versus Gustafsson, it's going to give you fucking Rashad Evans versus Phil Davis for some reason. But the Tape Index is here to just save you those valuable seconds and minutes whenever you're running tape and you're doing the studying. Everything on one page for you. I'm not sure how I used to tape study without it. Now I have it bookmarked. As soon as I need to study, I pop that shit open and I get to work. Everything's on one page. Everything that you need is there. Noah's saying, I think that hits. I hope so. Mixed partial farts saying might hit. DXJC is saying it's all on Neal Magny. I think he hits it, man. Free UFC bet picks. He's going to be filming from the beach. I hope so. That'll be dope. Freeway comes down to Magny's lanky ass. Well, again, Hill needs to hit as well. And then Canelo too. Oh my God, the Fight Pass was built by a high school kid for real. Yeah, you're right. Like even where there are live fights on Fight Pass, you can barely find them. Exactly. John Villegas, you can bet different events spread apart parlays at casinos. Yeah, again, I just use online bookies. I think that's the best way to go. It's what I've been doing over the last little while now, and it's been working out. You know, I mean, I hit a $4,000 one a couple weeks ago. Then just this past weekend, I cashed one with Yuri Prohaska. I'll show you guys that one. I think I still have it. I'm not sure if I deleted it. No, check this one out. This one was almost a meme of a parlay, though, right? Check this one out. Let me try to zoom in on it for you guys. Look at that. Lance Gibson Jr. hits. Julia Budd probably didn't deserve the win, but she hits. Tony Gravely hits. Alexander Romanov, very fucking crazy circumstances regarding that, but Romanov hits. Tracy Cortez hits. Hamos and Dos Santos. Obviously, those fights get pulled, and then I had Prohaska and Strickland to finish it off. So Prohaska was the last leg. He hits. The adjusted payout here, it's not 10 grand. That's when it included Hamos and Dos Santos, and the adjusted payout was about $2,300. So still pretty good off of that $2,500 or $250 bet. Killing it with these multi-event, releasing them on the Patreon, all tracked. No hiding from you guys. No shadiness on this side. So appreciate everybody. Marcus Ard saying Jeff Neal all day. I hope not. Rib Lemon saying that's a fucking insane parlay. I know. Multi-events parlays, that's where it's at. Don't parlay, don't get so hung up on one parlay for when I try to get that immediate cash. Put in some investment to future events, and it's eventually going to pay off for you guys. I'm telling you. All right. I'm pretty much done. We're at 2 hours and 8 minutes. Appreciate everybody that stopped by for the stream. What do I got coming up? No stream tomorrow. Thursday, I'm back at it. Thursday, noon Eastern. Going to be doing the DFS show on Sal Vetri's channel, so make sure you guys check that out. Then 8 p.m. Eastern on Thursday nights, obviously propping you up with me and Cody. Make sure you guys come out and check that one out. And then Friday, I'll be doing a live stream for the weigh-ins. I believe we're on the West Coast again, so noon Eastern weigh-in slot. I'll be going live to do the live weigh-in with you guys. And then 9 p.m. Eastern on Friday night, we're going to be doing that Ultimate Weigh-in show with me, Newsome, from MMA Play 365, Notorious Picks MMA, another close friend of mine, and then AJ Sholo, another very good close friend of mine from MMA Oddsbreaker and Daily Fan MMA. So we got a heater of a lineup coming for you guys. Appreciate you guys stepping up. Appreciate you guys coming through. Appreciate all the donations that you guys dropped through the super chat throughout the stream. And then if you guys haven't already, hit up that Patreon, $5 a month. It means a lot with all the support. We're at about 340 something members, close to 350. We had a couple. The first of the month is when everybody gets charged, and we had a couple of people get declined. And I'm sure they got some tough times that they're currently on right now. But usually when Fridays come back around, those numbers get added back to the total, and I think we're closer to that 300 and 355 range. So we'll see what's up. But yeah, shout out to the Patreon members. You guys are the best. If you guys want to look it up, link is in the description below. Shout out to my guy Kairos in the MMA in the chat. Waterson is trying to kick Rodriguez from her house right now. She gonna win this fight. I'm telling you, Kairos. She gonna win this fight. All right, appreciate you guys checking it out. Have a good night. And if you guys want, last thing I'll say, I'm going to be dropping the MMA Lawcast, the pre-recorded version. That should be coming out in the next 10 or 15 minutes. So if you guys go back to my channel and go to the full breakdown, full episode link, you guys will see the full podcast. And that's me as soon as I'm done researching the fights, and I give you guys my full fleshed out thoughts fresh off of that tape study. So make sure you guys check that shit out. Noah, I'm not even going to try and get to that. I don't speak about that man on this channel anymore. That guy's a fucking fraud and a half. All right. See you guys. Good luck on your fights this week, and I'll see you guys throughout the week.